Hey, welcome back. I'm really glad you're here. I know it's late. I know your mind might be racing, or maybe you're just tired of staring at the ceiling. Whatever brought you here tonight, I'm grateful you chose to spend this time with me. We're going to wander through Hallownest together, slowly, gently. Just 250 quiet facts about Hollow Knight. Some will feel familiar, like old friends. Others might be new. You don't need to remember any of this. You don't need to stay awake. If you drift off halfway through, that's perfect. That's exactly what this is for. I'll keep talking, and you can just let go. Let your body sink into wherever you're resting. Let your breathing find its own rhythm. Thank you for trusting me with your time with these quiet hours. Let's begin whenever you're ready. Close your eyes if you haven't already. Team Cherry consists of just 3 core members. Ari Gibson handles the art and animation, bringing Hallownest's haunting visuals to life with his distinctive hand-drawn style. William Pellin manages programming and design, crafting the tight controls and intricate world layout that make exploration so satisfying. Jack Vine contributed cutscenes and additional art, adding cinematic moments that punctuate your journey. These 3 people, working from a small office in Adelaide, Australia, dedicated nearly 3 years to every detail of Hallownest. Every enemy animation, every background element, every hidden passage was carefully considered and lovingly crafted. Christopher Larkin composed the entire soundtrack, creating 163 individual tracks that define the game's atmosphere. His work is so integral to the experience that many players cite the music as the moment they fell in love with the game. The City of Tears theme, with its simple piano melody and melancholic tone, has become one of the most beloved pieces of video game music ever composed. Larkin worked closely with Team Cherry throughout development, ensuring each area had its own musical identity while maintaining a cohesive sound throughout the entire game. The Kickstarter launched in November 2014, asking for $35,000 Australian dollars to fund development. The campaign was modest, with Team Cherry presenting their vision for a challenging action-adventure game set in a vast interconnected world. They received $57,138 Australian dollars from 2,158 backers, exceeding their goal and allowing them to expand their vision significantly. That extra funding meant more areas, more bosses, more secrets hidden in the darkness. Stretch goals that were reached included additional game modes, extra bosses, and expanded content that would eventually become some of the game's most memorable moments. Your breathing has slowed. Your body is settling into rest. Let these facts continue to float beside you. The game wasn't always called Hollow Knight. In early development, Team Cherry called it Hungry Knight, and the tone was completely different. The protagonist was motivated by hunger rather than mystery, and the gameplay leaned toward comedy rather than melancholy. You can still find traces of this early concept in old development blogs and prototype footage. The knight would eat enemies, growing larger and more powerful with each meal. It was quirky and fun, but it wasn't the game Team Cherry ultimately wanted to make. At some point along the way, they found the darker heart of their story, and Hungry Knight transformed into something entirely different. Hollow Knight released on February 24th, 2017 for PC through Steam and GOG. The initial reception was positive but modest, with the game finding its audience gradually through word of mouth and positive reviews. It arrived on Nintendo Switch on June 12, 2018, and that's when everything changed. The Switch version introduced the game to millions of new players who had never heard of it before. the portability of the Switch made Hollow Knight perfect for long play sessions in bed, on trains, anywhere you wanted to explore Hallownest. Many consider the Switch version the definitive way to experience the game. Portable, intimate, perfect for those long nights when sleep won't come. The game sold over 500,000 copies in its first year, an impressive number for a small indie team. By 2019, it had sold over 2.8 million copies worldwide. By 2022, sales exceeded 5 million copies across all platforms. These numbers proved that indie games could compete with A titles, that a small team with a clear vision could create something that resonated with millions of players. Team Cherry never had a marketing budget to speak of. The game's success came entirely from quality and word of mouth, from players telling their friends, from streamers discovering it and sharing it with their audiences. Hollow Knight won Best Debut Game at the 2018 BAFTA Games Awards, beating out several other strong contenders. It was nominated for Best Independent Game at the Game Awards 2017, standing alongside other indie darlings. It won the Excellence in Audio Award at the 2018 Independent Games Festival. Critics praised its tight controls, atmospheric world design, challenging but fair combat, and hauntingly beautiful soundtrack. Review scores were consistently high, with many outlets giving it perfect or near-perfect scores. But more importantly, player reception was overwhelmingly positive, with the game maintaining a 97% positive rating on Steam years after release. Let your thoughts drift. Each fact is a small piece of a larger picture. The game's art style was inspired by classic cartoons, Gothic architecture, and the works of artists like Aubrey Beardsley. Ari Gibson's hand-drawn animation gives every character and enemy a distinctive personality. The backgrounds are layered and detailed, with parallax scrolling creating depth and atmosphere. Each area has its own visual identity: the elegant blues and greys of the City of Tears, the vibrant greens of Greenpath, the oppressive darkness of Deepnest, the crystalline pinks of Crystal Peak. The colour palette shifts dramatically between areas, using colour to communicate mood and danger without a single word. Hallownest exists entirely underground, beneath a mountain that separates it from the world above. The kingdom is vast, containing multiple distinct regions, each with its own ecosystem, inhabitants, and history. The Forgotten Crossroads serve as the central hub, connecting to nearly every other area. The City of Tears sits at the heart of the kingdom, a once grand capital now empty and rain-soaked. Deepnest lurks in the depths, a nightmare realm of spiders and darkness. Kingdom's Edge marks the boundary of the kingdom, where the land gives way to ash and void. Each area tells its own story while contributing to the larger narrative of Hallownest's rise and fall. Before the Pale King arrived, the bugs living in the area that would become Hallownest were mindless creatures driven by instinct. They lived and died without thought or memory, without names or history or sense of self. They were animals, nothing more. They hunted, they ate, they reproduced, they died. There was no culture, no civilization, no art or music or language, just the endless cycle of survival. The Radiance connected them through dreams, but even that connection was instinctual rather than conscious. They belonged to something greater than themselves, but they didn't understand what that meant. They simply existed, bathed in her light, never alone but never truly aware. The Pale King gave them consciousness and everything changed. Suddenly they could think, could remember, could plan for the future and reflect on the past. They developed language, culture, art. They built cities and roads and systems of government. They created music and literature and philosophy. They became people rather than animals. But consciousness came with a cost. With awareness came suffering. With memory came grief. With individuality came loneliness. The bugs of Hallowness gained so much when the Pale King gave them minds, but they lost something too. That instinctual connection, that sense of belonging to something greater, that comfort of never being truly alone. Your breathing is slow and steady now. Your body has settled completely. The Pale King wasn't always a king. He wasn't always pale. Before Hallowness, he was a worm, a massive serpentine creature of immense power. Worms are ancient beings, older than kingdoms, perhaps older than gods themselves. They're creatures of pure potential, capable of granting consciousness and creating civilizations, but they're also alien and distant, too large to truly understand the small creatures they might rule. The Pale King chose to shed that enormous form, to die as a worm and be reborn as something smaller, something that could walk among the bugs he wished to govern. This transformation was a sacrifice of unimaginable magnitude. He gave up godlike power, gave up his true form, gave up everything he was to become something new. The worm's corpse still lies in Kingdom's Edge, a colossal shell of pale chitin that dwarfs everything around it. Standing before it, you understand the scale of what the Pale King sacrificed. The shell is so large it forms its own landmark, visible from multiple areas. Bugs have made homes in its ribcage. Moss and fungus grow on its surface. It's been there so long it's become part of the landscape, just another feature of Kingdom's Edge. But it's a monument to transformation, to the choice a god made to become something less than what he was. All that power, all that majesty traded for a crown and a kingdom that would eventually destroy itself. The Radiance existed before the Pale King, before Hallowness, before consciousness itself came to the bugs of this region. She was a being of pure light, a moth deity who connected all bugs through shared dreams. Under her rule, they had no individual consciousness, but they belonged to something greater than themselves. They basked in her glow, connected through dreams, never alone. It wasn't a rule of laws or governance. It was a rule of pure connection, of shared experience, of unity without individuality. The bugs didn't worship her in any conscious way. They simply existed in her light, and that was enough. When the Pale King gave bugs individual minds, they forgot the Radiance. Not naturally, not gradually. The Pale King actively suppressed her memory. He erased her temples, scattered her followers, replaced her worship with his own. He wanted to be the only light his subjects knew, the only higher being they remembered. This wasn't just political maneuvering, it was existential warfare. Now, the Pale King understood that the Radiance's power came from being remembered, from existing in the dreams and thoughts of her followers. If he could make them forget her completely, she would fade away, become powerless, cease to be a threat to his kingdom. Let your mind grow quiet. Let these truths settle like dust in still air. But forgotten gods don't simply disappear. The Radiance festered in the collective unconscious, growing more furious with each passing year. Her light, once warm and welcoming, soured into something toxic. She became rage and desperation, a god abandoned by everyone who once loved her. When she finally broke free from the suppression the Pale King had placed on her, Her rage became the infection. Orange growth spreading through Hallownest, glowing eyes in the darkness. Yasmine's consumed by a god who refused to be forgotten. The infection isn't really a disease in any biological sense. It's the Radiance forcing herself into minds that forgot her, demanding to be remembered, destroying those minds in the process. The Radiance isn't exactly evil. She's desperate, she's alone. She's been abandoned by everyone who once loved her, replaced by a new god who actively worked to erase her from existence. Her method of forcing bugs to remember her destroys the very mind she's trying to reach, but she doesn't seem to understand that. Or maybe she does understand and simply doesn't care anymore. Centuries of being forgotten, of existing in a liminal space between being and non-being, have driven her to madness. She wants connection, wants to be remembered, wants to matter again. But her desperation has transformed her into something monstrous. The Pale King's solution to the Radiance problem was to create a vessel, a being with no mind to think, no will to break, no voice to cry suffering. He believed such a creature could contain the Radiance, seal her away where she couldn't reach his subjects. The theory was sound. If the Radiance's power came from existing in conscious minds, then a being without consciousness couldn't be infected. It would be a perfect prison, an unbreakable seal. But creating such a being required resources and methods that would ultimately doom the kingdom as surely as the infection itself. The Abyss is the deepest place in Hallownest, a realm of absolute darkness where the void accumulates in an ancient sea. The void is a primordial substance, older than the Pale King, or older than the Radiance, perhaps older than consciousness itself. It's not evil or good, it simply is. A darkness that exists in opposition to light, an emptiness that exists in opposition to being. The Pale King discovered the Abyss and saw in the void a solution to his problem. If he could create beings from this void, beings that were alive but empty, they could serve as perfect prisons for the Radiance. The Pale King used the void to create the vessels, mixing it with soul to produce beings that were alive but empty. The process required countless attempts. The Abyss is filled with the shells of failures, thousands of vessels that didn't meet his standards, that showed some spark of consciousness or will or emotion. Each failure was discarded, thrown back into the Abyss to die in the darkness. The Pale King was searching for perfection, for a being that was truly hollow, and he was willing to sacrifice as many attempts as it took to find it. Your eyelids are growing heavier. Let these facts continue to wash over you. The Hollow Knight was chosen because it seemed truly empty. No mind to think, no will to break, no voice to cry suffering. It was the Pale King's greatest achievement, the perfect vessel he'd been searching for. But here's the tragedy. The Hollow Knight wasn't truly hollow. Despite everything, despite being created from void and raised in isolation, it developed something like attachment. In the path of pain, one of the most difficult platforming challenges in the game, you can find a hidden memory. It shows the Hollow Knight as a child, looking up at the Pale King with something resembling love. That small crack in its void was enough. The seal was doomed from the moment it was created. You play as one of the Hollow Knight's siblings, another vessel, another attempt to create the perfect prison. But you were discarded, thrown into the Abyss with countless others when you failed to meet the Pale King's impossible standards. Maybe you showed emotion, maybe you demonstrated will, maybe you simply weren't empty enough. Whatever the reason, you were deemed a failure and cast aside. The abyss is filled with the shells of your dead siblings, thousands of them, maybe more, vessels that fell during the climb, that weren't strong enough or lucky enough to reach the top. You climbed out, they didn't. And now you've returned to the kingdom your father built, to finish what he started, to succeed where he failed. The knight has no canonical name. You are simply the knight, or the vessel, or the ghost. Throughout the entire game, you never speak, never express emotion, never indicate preference. You're a silent protagonist in the truest sense, a blank slate onto which players project their own interpretations. This silence is thematically appropriate. Vessels were created to be empty, to have no voice to cry suffering. Your silence is a reminder of what you are, of what you were created to be. And yet, despite that silence, players form deep emotional connections with the knight, seeing in that emptiness courage, determination, and love for siblings they never knew. Team Cherry confirmed that the knight, like all vessels, has no gender. They are void given form beyond such biological distinctions. Yeah, the game uses it pronouns for the knight in official materials, though players are free to use whatever pronouns feel right to them. This isn't a political statement or a modern sensibility imposed on the game. It's a fundamental aspect of what vessels are. They're not male or female because they're not really alive in any conventional sense. They're animated void, given shape and purpose but fundamentally empty. The ambiguity is intentional, allowing players to interpret the knight however they wish. The Dream Nail was created by the Moth Tribe to access the Radiance's realm, to commune with their goddess through dreams. It's one of the oldest artifacts in the game, predating Hallownest itself, a relic from the time when the moths worshipped the Radiance openly. When you use it on certain characters, you can read their thoughts. You see their dreams, understand their inner lives. Some of those thoughts are heartbreaking. Use it on the Hollow Knight during the final battle and you'll see one phrase, Father. That single word reveals everything. The attachment that doomed the seal, the love that shouldn't exist, the crack in the void that let the infection through. Let your body sink deeper into the mattress. Let your thoughts become soft and formless. Quirrel is one of the most beloved characters in the game, and his story is silently devastating. He was Monomon the teacher's assistant before the infection, a devoted student who helped her with her research in the archives. They had a close relationship, teacher and student, mentor and protege. When Monomon became a dreamer, sacrificing herself to strengthen the seal on the Hollow Knight, she made one final choice. She erased Quirrel's memories and sent him away, protecting him from Hallownest's fate. She loved him enough to make him forget her, to spare him the pain of watching the kingdom fall. Quirrel wandered for years, not knowing who he was or where he came from. He travelled to distant lands, saw things beyond Hallownest's borders, lived a life free from the kingdom's tragedy. But something called him back. He doesn't know what. Some instinct, some half-remembered purpose, some pull he can't explain. He explores alongside you, appearing at key locations throughout your journey. At the archives, he helps you access Monomon's seal. At the City of Tears, he marvels at the rain. At the Blue Lake, he finds peace. Quirrel's final appearance is at the Blue Lake, a hidden area of serene beauty in the Forgotten Crossroads. He sits peacefully on a small platform watching the water, his nail laid beside him. If you sit next to him using the rest ability, he talks about his journey and his contentment. He speaks of finally understanding his purpose, of feeling complete for the first time in years. After you leave and return, he's gone, Only his nail remains, planted in the ground by the water's edge. The implication is clear, though the game never says it directly. Quirrel has died. His journey is complete. He found what he was looking for, and he chose to end his story in a place of peace, looking out over still water, finally at rest. Many players sit with Quirrel for a long time before leaving, not wanting to trigger his disappearance. Some never leave at all, keeping him alive in their game world, refusing to accept his death. It's irrational. He's just a character in a game, pixels and code. But the attachment players feel for Quirrel shows how effectively Hollow Knight builds emotional connections. His story is told through brief encounters and subtle dialogue. You never spend that much time with him, but those moments are enough to make his loss feel real. The Nailsmith has a similar choice woven into his story. He's dedicated his entire life to perfecting his craft, to creating the ultimate nail. He lives alone in a small hut in the City of Tears, working tirelessly at his forge. When you upgrade your nail to its maximum level, pure nail, his life's work is complete. He's achieved what he set out to do, created perfection, and now he has nothing left. He asks you to kill him with the perfect nail he created, to end his story at its peak, to die having achieved his purpose. You can do it striking him down with the weapon he forged, or you can spare him, walking away and leaving him alive. Your breathing is barely perceptible now. Your body is heavy and warm. If you spare the Nailsmith, something beautiful happens. He eventually finds his way to Sheo's hut in Greenpath. Sheo is one of the 3 nail masters, former warriors who now teach nail arts to worthy students. But Sheo has retired from combat, dedicating himself to painting instead. The Nailsmith discovers a new passion there, learning to paint alongside Sheo. You can find them together later, the Nailsmith happy and covered in paint, having found purpose beyond his original craft. It's one of the few unambiguously happy endings in the game, a reminder that sometimes life continues after you think your purpose is complete, that new passions can be found, that it's never too late to start over. Zote the Mighty is a joke character, arrogant, incompetent, constantly getting into trouble he can't handle. He carries a nail made of shell wood that can't actually damage enemies. He wears a mask that's cracked and poorly made. He boasts about his achievements while consistently failing at basic tasks. You first encounter him in Greenpath, trapped by a vengefly king needing rescue. Later you find him in Deepnest, captured by bugs he couldn't defeat. In the Colosseum of Fools he gets knocked out in the first round. He's pathetic and ridiculous, and yet there's something oddly endearing about his complete lack of self-awareness. But here's something most players miss. Zote has 57 precepts, 57 rules for life that he'll recite if you talk to him enough times in Dirtmouth. They range from the practical, always be rested, to the absurd, don't eat immediately before sleeping, to the genuinely philosophical, strength beats strength. Some are contradictory, some are nonsensical, but scattered among the ridiculous advice are occasional nuggets of actual wisdom. Listening to all 57 precepts takes a long time and requires patience. Most players give up after a few, but if you're the kind of person who listens to sleep scripts about video game lore, you might find something oddly comforting in Zote's rambling wisdom. He's ridiculous, but he's trying. In a world full of tragedy, there's something sweet about that. But if you save Zote multiple times and defeat him in the Colosseum, Greta, a bug who lives in Dirtmouth, becomes obsessed with him. She sees him as a heroic figure, a mighty warrior, everything he pretends to be. In her dreams, accessible through the dream nail, Zote becomes Grey Prince Zote, a powerful dream boss that represents Bretta's idealized version of him. The fight is actually challenging, unlike the real Zote. It's a reminder that perception matters, that the stories we tell about people can be more powerful than the truth, that even a fool can be a hero in someone's dreams. Let these facts continue to unfold, asking nothing, offering only gentle company. The Grimm Troupe DLC was released as free content in October 2017, adding a substantial amount of new content to the game. The troupe arrives in Dirtmouth after you light the Nightmare Lantern in the Howling Cliffs. Their tent appears overnight. Impossible architecture that shouldn't fit in the small town. Inside, everything is theatrical. Red curtains, dramatic lighting, performers and servants, all devoted to the ritual that sustains them. The Grimm Troupe travels between dying kingdoms, feeding on the flames of their collapse. They've done this for eons, perpetuating something called the Nightmare Heart through an infinite ritual of death and rebirth. Troupe Master Grimm himself is elegant and mysterious, treating everything as a performance. Even his boss fight feels choreographed, with precise movements and clear rhythms. His attacks follow patterns that reward players who learn to move with the music. He bows before and after combat, as maintaining his theatricality even in battle. Many players describe fighting Grimm as one of the most satisfying experiences in the game. Difficult but fair, punishing but learnable, a dance of death that feels almost collaborative rather than adversarial. Nightmare King Grimm is what Grimm becomes when you face him in the Dream Realm. He's faster, more aggressive, more demanding. The fight is considered one of the hardest in the entire game, a test of reflexes and pattern recognition that pushes players to their absolute limits, but it's also considered one of the fairest. Every attack has a tell, every pattern can be learned. The difficulty comes from execution, not from randomness or cheap tricks. Players who master the fight describe it as transcendent, a perfect dance of death that rewards dedication and punishes impatience. Brum, the accordion player, is tired. He's performed this ritual countless times, seen countless kingdoms fall, played the same songs over and over for eons. He's one of the few members of the troupe who seems to have retained some sense of self, some memory of all the cycles that have come before, and he's exhausted by it. The infinite repetition, the endless cycle of death and rebirth, the knowledge that this will never end, it's worn him down to nothing. He offers you a choice: complete the ritual as Grimm intends, or help him destroy the Nightmare Lantern and end the cycle forever. If you choose to end the cycle, helping Brum destroy the Nightmare Lantern, the Grimm Troupe is banished from Hallownest. Brum loses his memories, becoming Nim, a simple bug with no knowledge of his past. He seems happier, lighter, or freed from the burden of infinite repetition. But you have to wonder, is forgetting really freedom? Or is it just another kind of death? The game doesn't answer. It presents both options, the eternal cycle or the peace of forgetting, and lets you decide which is preferable. Your body is completely relaxed now. Your mind is still and calm. The carefree melody charm is obtained only if you choose to end the cycle. It's a gentle charm that occasionally protects you from damage, a small gift that represents the peace that comes from breaking cycles, from choosing rest over infinite repetition. It's not the most powerful charm in the game, but it's thematically perfect, a reminder that sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when to stop, when to rest, when to let go. The White Palace exists in a dream. hidden within the mind of a dead king's mould. To reach it, you must use the dream nail on a specific corpse in the palace grounds, a corpse that gives no indication it's special, that looks like any other dead bug in the area. Most players never find it without a guide. It's one of the game's best kept secrets, a massive area hidden behind an unmarked interaction that requires specific knowledge to access. Inside the White Palace is a death trap, buzzsaws everywhere, spikes, precision platforming that punishes the slightest error. But here's the thing, the palace wasn't always like this. The Pale King transformed it as his paranoia grew, as the infection spread and his kingdom crumbled. He filled his home with hazards to keep everyone out, even his own servants. The palace that was once a seat of power and culture became a fortress of isolation, a monument to a king's descent into paranoid madness. The royal retainers, the bugs who once attended the king, have been transformed into part of the architecture. Their faces are visible in the walls, frozen in the eternal service. They didn't escape. They couldn't escape. The king sealed them inside with him, whether intentionally or as a side effect of his transformation of the palace. They're still there, still serving, still waiting for a king who will never wake. It's one of the most disturbing details in the game, easy to miss if you're focused on the platforming, but horrifying once you notice it. The Pale King's corpse sits on his throne in the White Palace, the crown still on his head. He died alone, surrounded by his creations, as having failed to save his kingdom. How he died is never explained. Maybe the infection reached him. Maybe he gave up, unable to bear the weight of his failure. Maybe, after everything, he simply chose to stop. His body is small and frail, a stark contrast to the massive worm form he once possessed. In death, he looks almost pathetic, a small bug on a large throne, a god reduced to nothing. The White Lady still mourns him. She's bound herself in the Queen's gardens, wrapped in her own roots, refusing to move or create more life. She speaks of the Pale King with love and sorrow, recognizing his flaws while grieving his loss. He was a worm, and I loved him, she says. It's one of the most poignant lines in the game, a simple statement that contains multitudes. Their relationship was complicated. Two higher beings who tried to build something together and watched it fall apart. But the love was real, and the grief is real, and she carries both even now. Let your thoughts become like mist, present but formless, drifting without direction. The White Lady is a higher being herself, a root-like entity with power over growth and life. She helped the Pale King create the vessels, contributing her essence to the process. She watched thousands of them fail, watched them fall back into the abyss, watched the Pale King's obsession consume him. She carries the guilt of that participation, the knowledge that she helped create and destroy countless lives in pursuit of a solution that ultimately failed. That guilt weighs so heavily on her that she's chosen to become a prisoner in her own body, binding herself with roots, refusing to create any more life. The King Soul charm represents the union of the Pale King and White Lady, two halves of a whole. One half comes from the Pale King's corpse in the White Palace. The other half comes from the White Lady's living body in the Queen's gardens. Together they slowly generate soul, a reminder of the life-giving power they once shared. But the true purpose of the King Soul is transformation. Take it to the abyss, to the place where you were born. Confront the memories there, and it becomes the Void Heart, the charm that allows you to access the true endings, the symbol of a vessel that has accepted its nature. The City of Tears gets its name from the eternal rain that falls through its ceiling. A massive lake sits above the city, and water constantly drips through the stone, creating the melancholic atmosphere that defines the area. The architecture is elegant. Tall spires, grand plazas, sweeping bridges, all empty now. Monuments to a civilization that no longer exists. The rain never stops, never slows, a constant reminder of the weight pressing down from above, of the tears the city sheds for its lost glory. Christopher Larkin's theme for the City of Tears is one of the most beloved pieces of video game music ever composed. It's a simple piano melody, melancholic and beautiful, that perfectly captures the sadness of the fallen capital. The melody repeats seamlessly, creating an infinite rain of notes that matches the infinite rain falling through the ceiling. Many players cite this as the moment they fell in love with the game, the rain, the music, either the empty streets all coming together into something that feels less like a game and more like a memory, like grief for a place you've never been. The soul Sanctum sits at the heart of the City of Tears, a place where scholars once studied the nature of soul, the white energy that animates all living beings. They believed soul could cure the infection, that enough soul could purify anything. They were wrong, but they kept trying anyway. Their methods became more desperate and unethical with each failure, crossing lines that should never be crossed, sacrificing bugs in pursuit of a cure that didn't exist. Your breathing is slow, and even now, your heartbeat is steady and calm. The Soul Master led the research at the Soul Sanctum. He was once a respected scholar, dedicated to finding a cure for the infection that was consuming his kingdom, but his experiments twisted him. He absorbed so much soul that his body warped, growing bloated and grotesque. His mind fractured under the weight of his failures and his power. By the time you encounter him, he's barely recognizable as the bug he once was. He floats through his sanctum, cackling, surrounded by the corpses of his test subjects, convinced that he's on the verge of a breakthrough that will never come. The Soul Sanctum is filled with mistakes and follies, twisted creatures that were once bugs, transformed by soul experiments gone wrong. They're not enemies in any traditional sense. They're victims. Each one was a living being with thoughts and dreams and loved ones, reduced to a shambling horror by scholars who thought they were saving the kingdom. The mistakes float aimlessly through the halls, their bodies distorted beyond recognition. The follies are even worse, larger, more aggressive, more aware of what they've become. They attack you not out of malice but out of pain, lashing out at anything that moves because they can't do anything else. The Watcher Knights guard Lurien the Watcher's seal in the spire. They're 6 identical warriors, bound in heavy armour, rolling and slashing with mechanical precision. They were once the elite guards of the spire, chosen for their skill and loyalty. When Lurien became a dreamer, they chose to remain with him, to guard his sleeping form for eternity. They died at their posts, but their duty didn't end with death. Something, loyalty, magic, or simple determination, keeps them moving, keeps them fighting, keeps them protecting a master who will never wake. There are actually 7 Watcher Knights, not 6. One of them is already dead when you arrive, its armour broken and empty in a side room. You can use the Desolate Dive ability to break the ceiling and drop a chandelier on it, ensuring it stays dead. Most players discover this by accident, grateful for any advantage against one of the game's most challenging encounters. But it raises questions. What killed that 7th knight? What got past their defences? And if something could defeat one of them, what does that say about the dangers lurking in Hallownest? Lurien the Watcher was the Pale King's most devoted follower. He lived in the spire overlooking the City of Tears, watching over the kingdom he loved. When the Pale King needed dreamers to strengthen the seal on the Hollow Night, Lurien volunteered without hesitation. He gave up his life, his consciousness, everything he was to protect Hallownest. His last thoughts, visible through the dream nail, are of duty and devotion. He doesn't regret his choice. Even knowing the kingdom fell anyway, even knowing his sacrifice was ultimately meaningless, he would make the same choice again. Let your muscles release their tension. Let your jaw unclench. Let your shoulders drop. Monomon the teacher lived in the archives, surrounded by books and knowledge. She was a scholar first and foremost, dedicated to understanding the world and sharing that understanding with others. Quirrel was her most devoted student, but she taught many others over the years. When she became a dreamer, she did so knowing exactly what it meant, understanding the science and magic behind the seal. She approached her own death with the same analytical mind she brought to everything else. But she also made sure Quirrel wouldn't suffer for her choice, erasing his memories and sending him away before she sealed herself in sleep. Hera the Beast ruled Deepnest, a kingdom within a kingdom, independent and fierce. She was powerful enough that the Pale King couldn't simply command her cooperation. He had to negotiate. The price she demanded for becoming a dreamer was high. The Pale King would give her a child. That child is Hornet, half spider, half worm, belonging to both kingdoms and neither. Hera became a dreamer knowing she would never see her daughter grow up, never teach her, never watch her become the fierce protector she was meant to be. It was a sacrifice as profound as any in the game, trading her life and consciousness for a child she would never truly know. Hornet is unique in Hallownest, the daughter of 2 kingdoms, 2 rulers, 2 worlds. She's not a vessel like you. She has a mind, a will, a voice. She can think and feel and choose. But she's also not quite like the other bugs of Hallownest. She's faster, stronger, more skilled than almost anyone else in the kingdom. She guards the ruins of Hallownest not out of duty to the Pale King, but out of love for her mother and respect for what the kingdom once was. When she fights you, she's testing you, making sure you're strong enough to do what needs to be done. Hornet is the last guardian of a dead kingdom. Everyone she knew is gone. Her mother sleeps in Deepnest, unreachable. Her father is dead. The kingdom she was born to protect has fallen. She wanders the ruins alone, fighting infected creatures, testing travellers, maintaining a vigil that no one asked her to keep. When you encounter her, she's been alone for so long that even a fight is a form of connection. She speaks to you, challenges you, acknowledges you. In a kingdom of silence and death, that acknowledgement means something. In one ending, Hornet seals you inside the Black Egg, taking the place of the Hollow Night as the new prison for the Radiance. She stands outside the sealed door, alone again, knowing that she's condemned you to the same fate as your sibling. The achievement for this ending is called Sealed Siblings, a reminder that despite everything, despite your different origins and natures, you and Hornet are family. You're both children of the Pale King, both protectors of Hallownest, both willing to sacrifice everything for a kingdom that's already dead. Your eyes are closed now, or nearly closed. Your breathing is deep and slow. The Mantis Lords rule the Mantis village with strength and honour. They're 3 warriors who fight as one, their movements synchronized, their attacks coordinated. Unlike most of Hallownest, the Mantis Tribe never accepted the Pale King's rule. They remained independent, governing themselves according to their own code. When the infection came, they sealed the entrance to Deepnest, preventing the infected creatures from spreading into their territory. They maintained order through strength and discipline while the rest of Hallownest fell into chaos. When you challenge the Mantis Lords, you're not fighting enemies, you're participating in a ritual, a test of strength that the Mantis Tribe respects above all else. If you defeat them, they bow to you, they acknowledge your strength, they open the path to Deepnest and command their warriors to let you pass. It's one of the few encounters in the game that ends not in death, but in mutual respect. The Mantis Lords don't become your allies exactly, but they recognize you as a warrior worthy of respect. Not all mantises followed the Lord's code. The traitor Lord and his followers accepted the infection, believing it would make them stronger. They were cast out, exiled to the Queen's Gardens where they live as outcasts. The traitor Lord is larger and more aggressive than the Mantis Lords, but there's something desperate about him. He chose power over honour. He used strength over community, and in doing so lost everything that made the Mantis Tribe what they were. He's stronger than he was, but he's also alone, surrounded only by followers who are slowly losing themselves to the infection. The traitor Lord's daughter, Cloth, rejected her father's choice. She left the Queen's Gardens, travelling far from Hallownest in search of a glorious death in battle. She's a warrior through and through, cheerful and brave, seeking the kind of death that would honour her ancestors. You can encounter her in various locations throughout your journey, and she'll help you fight the traitor Lord if you've met her enough times. She gets her glorious death in that battle, falling while fighting beside you against her own father. It's what she wanted, but that doesn't make it any less sad. And Deepnest is the most unsettling area in the game. The music is sparse and discordant. The lighting is minimal. The enemies are spiders and centipedes and things that skitter in the darkness. The area is designed to make you uncomfortable, to trigger that primal fear of dark enclosed spaces filled with crawling things. Many players cite Deepnest as the area they dread returning to, the place that makes their skin crawl even though they know it's just a game. Let your mind drift like a leaf on still water. Let these facts wash over you without effort. Deepnest was once home to the Weavers, a tribe of spiders who created intricate seals and magical barriers. They were skilled artisans, weaving magic into silk, creating beauty and protection. But they left Hallownest before the infection, sensing the coming disaster. They sealed the entrance to their den and departed for distant lands, abandoning Deepnest to the lesser spiders in the darkness. Only one weaver remained behind, too old or too stubborn to leave. You can find her seal in Deepnest, a reminder of the magic that once protected this place. The midwife still lives in Deepnest, one of the few bugs there who can still speak. But her words are fragmented and strange, her mind clearly affected by the infection or by centuries of isolation in the darkness. She talks about children and birth and the things that crawl in the deep places. She's not hostile, but she's deeply unsettling, a reminder that there are fates worse than death in Hallownest. Nosk is one of the most disturbing enemies in the game. It's a shapeshifter that lures prey by taking the form of something familiar. When you first encounter it, it appears as another knight, a mirror image of yourself. It leads you deeper into Deepnest, into its lair, where it reveals its true form, a grotesque spider-like creature that wears the shells of its victims like masks. The implication is horrifying. Nosk has killed other travellers, other knights, other beings similar to you, and it's been using their forms to lure more victims into the darkness. The Colosseum of Fools sits in Kingdom's Edge, a massive arena where bugs fight for glory and geo. It's run by the Fool, a bug who values strength and spectacle above all else. The Colosseum offers 3 trials of increasing difficulty, each one throwing waves of enemies at you while a crowd cheers. It's pure combat, stripped of context or story, just you against increasingly dangerous foes. The final trial is one of the hardest challenges in the game, culminating in a fight against God Tamare and her beast. The God Tamare rides a massive beast into battle, directing its attacks while striking at you herself. The beast is enormous, powerful, relentless. But here's the sad part. The beast isn't evil or aggressive by nature. It's been tamed, trained, forced to fight in the arena for the entertainment of others. The God Tamer has broken something wild and magnificent, turning it into a weapon. When you defeat them, you're not just winning a fight. You're ending a partnership built on domination and control. Your body is sinking deeper into rest. Your thoughts are becoming quieter, softer, more distant. Pale ore is one of the rarest materials in Hallownest, needed to upgrade your nail to its highest levels. There are only 6 pieces in the entire kingdom, each one hidden in a different location, each one requiring skill or exploration to obtain. The ore is pale white, reminiscent of the Pale King himself. It's a fragment of his power, scattered throughout the kingdom, waiting to be found and forged into something new. The 3 nail masters, Matto, Shio and Oro, were trained by the great Nailsage Sly. They mastered different aspects of nail combat, each developing their own unique technique. Matto teaches the Cyclone Slash, a spinning attack that hits multiple enemies. Shio teaches the Dash Slash, a quick forward strike. Oro teaches the Great Slash, a powerful charged attack. Each technique reflects the personality of its master. Matto's enthusiasm, Shio's precision, Oro's intensity. Matto and Oro are brothers, but they're estranged. Something happened between them, some argument or betrayal that drove them apart. Oro lives alone in Kingdom's Edge, bitter and isolated. Matto lives in the Howling Cliffs, still friendly but carrying the weight of the broken relationship. Neither will speak directly about what happened, but the pain is evident in how they talk about each other. It's a small tragedy in a kingdom full of them, a reminder that even without the infection, relationships fracture and families break apart. Sly, the shopkeeper in Dirtmouth, was once the great nail sage, the master who trained the nail masters. But he's forgotten most of his past, his memories lost to time or trauma. He's cheerful and friendly, running his shop and humming to himself, unaware of the warrior he once was. If you collect all the simple keys and access certain areas, you can trigger his memories. He remembers who he was, and you can fight him in his prime, a boss battle against one of the greatest warriors Hallownest ever produced. The Godmaster DLC, released in August 2018, added a massive amount of endgame content. It introduced the God Home, a realm accessed through a hidden area in the Junk Pit. God Home is a place where you can fight perfected versions of every boss in the game, testing your skills against increasingly difficult challenges. It's content designed for players who've mastered the base game and want more, much more, to test themselves against. Let your awareness of your body fade. Let yourself float in the space between waking and sleep. God Home contains 5 pantheons, each one a gauntlet of boss fights that must be completed without dying. The Pantheon of the Master contains 10 bosses. The Pantheon of the Artist contains 13. The Pantheon of the Sage contains 16. The Pantheon of the Knight contains 22. And the Pantheon of Hallowness contains all 42 bosses in the game, fought one after another, with only brief moments to rest and change charms between fights. Completing the Pantheon of Hallownest is considered one of the hardest challenges in any video game. At the end of the Pantheon of Hallownest, after defeating 41 other bosses, you face the Absolute Radiance. She's a perfected version of the Radiance, faster and more aggressive, with new attacks and patterns. The fight takes place on platforms that disappear beneath you, forcing constant movement while dodging her attacks. It's the ultimate test of everything you've learned, and every skill you've developed, every pattern you've mastered. Players who defeat her describe it as one of the most satisfying moments in gaming, a triumph earned through dedication and skill. If you complete the Pantheon of Hallownest, after obtaining the Void Heart charm, you unlock a secret ending. The Knight transforms into a massive shade creature, a being of pure void that dwarfs even the Radiance. You chase her through the dream realm, attacking her with tendrils of darkness, overwhelming her with the very emptiness she feared. She shatters, her light consumed by void, and the infection ends. But the Knight is gone too, transformed into something that's no longer individual, no longer a person. The void claims everything in the end, light and darkness both. The Lifeblood update, released in April 2018, added new content focused on the mysterious blue substance that appears throughout Hallownest. Lifeblood grants temporary health that sits above your normal masks, providing protection without healing. The update added a new boss, the Hive Knight, and expanded the lore around the Lifeblood creatures and their connection to the kingdom. The Hive exists on the edge of Kingdom's Edge, a self-contained society of bees who produce honey and live according to their own rules. They're not hostile unless you threaten them or their queen. The Hive is one of the few places in Hallownest that feels alive, that still functions as a society rather than a ruin. The bees continue their work, producing honey, maintaining their home, serving their queen, seemingly unaffected by the infection that destroyed everything else. Your thoughts are like clouds now, drifting across a vast empty sky, present but insubstantial. The Hive Knight guards the queen, a massive warrior bee who fights with honour and precision. Unlike many bosses in the game, the Hive Knight isn't infected or corrupted. He's simply doing his duty, protecting his queen from an intruder. When you defeat him, there's no sense of triumph, just the quiet knowledge that you've killed a warrior who was only defending his home. The bees don't become friendly after his death. They continue their work, mourning their fallen protector in their own way. Queen Vesper, the ruler of the Hive, is dead. She sits on her throne, unmoving, while her subjects continue to serve her as if she were still alive. They bring her offerings, tend to her, speak to her, and maintaining the fiction that their queen still rules. It's unclear how long she's been dead, years, maybe decades, but the bees can't or won't accept her death, so they continue their routines, trapped in a cycle of denial and devotion. Throughout Hallownest, you can find grubs trapped in glass jars. There are 46 of them, each one imprisoned by the Collector, a strange bug who lives beneath the Tower of Love. The grubs are harmless creatures, making soft chirping sounds, grateful when you break their jars and free them. Each one you rescue returns to the Grub Father in the Forgotten Crossroads, reuniting with their parent. The Collector is obsessed with preserving things, with keeping them safe in jars where nothing can harm them. His lair is filled with jars containing grubs, but also other creatures, other treasures, and other things he's deemed worthy of preservation. He's not evil in any conventional sense. He genuinely believes he's protecting the things he collects, keeping them safe from the dangers of Hallownest. But his protection is also a prison, and the things he saves are trapped, unable to live or grow or be free. If you rescue all 46 grubs and return to the Grub Father, something disturbing happens. He's transformed, his body swollen and grotesque, the grubs apparently inside him. The game never explains exactly what's happening, but the implication is that this is part of the grub's life cycle, that the Grub Father is transforming into something else, that the reunion you facilitated is leading to some kind of metamorphosis. It's unsettling and strange. A reminder that the bugs of Hallownest have life cycles and biology that we don't fully understand. Let your breathing become automatic, effortless, something that happens without thought or intention. Myla is a miner you encounter in the Crystal Peak, singing cheerfully as she works. Her song is sweet and innocent, a moment of joy in a dark world. But if you return to her later in the game, after the infection has spread further, she's changed. Her song becomes distorted, her eyes glow orange. Eventually she attacks you, fully infected, no longer the cheerful miner you first met. Many players refuse to fight her, leaving the area rather than strike her down. Others defeat her quickly, seeing it as a mercy. Either way, her transformation is one of the game's most heartbreaking moments. Crystal Peak is one of the most visually striking areas in the game. Pink crystals jut from every surface, glowing with their own light, creating a landscape that's both beautiful and deadly. The crystals are sharp enough to damage you on contact, turning the entire area into a hazard. Miners once worked here, extracting the valuable crystals, but most of them are dead or infected now. The beauty of the crystals contrasts sharply with the danger they represent, a reminder that in Hallownest, even the most beautiful things can kill you. The Crystal Guardian protects the crystals with single-minded devotion. It's a massive creature, heavily armoured, attacking anything that threatens the crystals. When you defeat it once, it returns later as the enraged Guardian, even larger and more aggressive. Its devotion never wavers, even in death. It exists only to protect, to guard, to keep the crystals safe from those who would take them. There's something almost noble about that single-minded purpose, even as it tries to kill you. The resting grounds is where the bugs of Hallownest buried their dead. It's a quiet place, peaceful despite the graves and monuments. The music is soft and melancholic, a gentle melody that speaks of rest and memory. Spirits float through the area, the ghosts of bugs who died before the infection. They're not hostile, they simply exist, lingering in the place where their bodies were laid to rest, unable or unwilling to move on. In the resting grounds there's a memorial to the three dreamers, Lurien, Monomon and Hera. It's a simple monument, acknowledging their sacrifice, honouring their choice to seal themselves in sleep to protect the kingdom. The memorial is maintained even though the kingdom has fallen, even though their sacrifice ultimately failed. Someone cared enough to create this monument to ensure the dreamers would be remembered, even if there was no one left to remember them. Your mind is quiet now, thoughts passing like distant clouds, barely noticed, barely there. The Grey Mourner lives in the resting grounds, a bug consumed by grief for someone she lost. She asks you to deliver a delicate flower to a grave in the Queen's Gardens, a journey that requires you to travel across the entire kingdom without taking damage. If you're hit even once, the flower shatters. It's one of the most challenging quests in the game, requiring patience and careful navigation. But the reward isn't geo or items, simply the knowledge that you've honoured someone's grief, that you've helped the Grey Mourner pay respects to someone she loved. The grave belongs to the Traitor Lord's daughter, though the game never states this explicitly. The Grey Mourner loved her, and when she died fighting her own father, the mourner was left with nothing but grief and a flower that needed to be delivered. It's a love story told entirely through implication and environmental details, never stated outright but clear to those who pay attention. The delicate flower itself is mysterious. It's described as being from a place outside Hallownest, a gift from lands beyond the kingdom's borders. It's beautiful and fragile, unable to survive the violence that permeates Hallownest. Delivering it successfully is an act of preservation, of protecting something beautiful in a world that destroys beauty. The Elderbug sits at the entrance to Dirtmouth, the first character that most players meet. He's old and lonely, having watched the town empty as bugs either fled or descended into Hallownest never to return. He's kind and welcoming, offering advice and expressing concern for your safety. As you progress through the game, his dialogue changes, reflecting his growing attachment to you and his worry about the dangers you're facing. If you sit with the Elderbug after obtaining the Void Heart, his dialogue becomes particularly poignant. He talks about how the town feels less lonely with you around, how he's grateful for your presence. It's a small moment, easily missed, but it reveals the depth of his loneliness and how much your simple existence has meant to him. Dirtmouth is the only settlement in the game that's still inhabited by living, our uninfected bugs. It sits above Hallownest proper on the surface, protected from the worst of the infection. As you progress through the game, more bugs arrive in Dirtmouth, refugees and travellers who found their way to this small safe haven. The town grows slowly, becoming more alive, more hopeful, even as you explore the dead kingdom below. Cornifer is a cartographer who maps Hallownest, travelling to dangerous areas to document the kingdom's layout. You can hear him humming before you see him, a cheerful tune that's become iconic among players. He sells you maps of each area, making navigation easier. His dedication to his craft is admirable. He ventures into places like Deepnest and the ancient basin, armed with nothing but paper and ink, driven by the simple desire to map the world. Iselda is Cornifer's wife, running the map shop in Dirtmouth while her husband explores. She worries about him constantly, expressing concern about the dangers he faces, but she also respects his passion, understanding that mapping is what gives his life meaning. Their relationship is one of the healthiest in the game, built on mutual respect and genuine affection. The stag stations are remnants of Hallownest's public transportation system. The last stag is the only one of his kind still alive, all the others having died or disappeared. He's lonely and melancholic, remembering when the stations were full of travellers, when his kind served a thriving kingdom. As you unlock more stations, he becomes more hopeful, grateful to have a purpose again, to be carrying passengers through the tunnels like he did in better days. The last stag's dialogue reveals the depth of his isolation. He talks about the silence, about travelling through empty stations, about the weight of being the last of his kind. But he also expresses gratitude for your presence, for giving him a reason to keep going. It's a quiet tragedy, The loneliness of being the sole survivor of your species, carrying on simply because there's nothing else to do. Let your body become weightless, floating in darkness, held by nothing, needing nothing. The fungal wastes are home to the Mushroom Tribe, bugs who formed a symbiotic relationship with the fungi that grow throughout the area. The relationship has transformed them, making them part bug, part fungus, something in between. They're not hostile by nature, but they defend their territory aggressively. The fungal wastes have their own ecosystem, their own logic, operating independently of the rest of Hallownest. The Mantis Tribe and the Mushroom Tribe have an uneasy truce. The mantises guard the entrance to Deepnest, preventing the horrors below from spreading into the fungal wastes. In return, the Mushroom Tribe leaves the mantises alone. It's a practical arrangement, born of mutual benefit rather than friendship, but it's held for years, maybe centuries. Leg-Eater is a merchant in the fungal wastes who sells and repairs fragile charms. He's rude and dismissive, calling you names and overcharging for his services. But if you buy all his charms and then talk to him while wearing the Defender's crest, his dialogue changes. He becomes flustered and shy, revealing that he's attracted to you because of the smell. It's bizarre and oddly endearing, a moment of unexpected vulnerability from a character who presents himself as tough and uncaring. The fragile charms are powerful but break if you die while wearing them. Leg-Eater will repair them for a fee, but there's a better option. Divine, a character introduced in the Grimm Troupe DLC, can consume the fragile charms and transform them into unbreakable versions that never break. The process requires you to give up the charms temporarily, trusting that she'll return them upgraded rather than simply keeping them. Divine's relationship with Leg-Eater is complicated. She's his daughter, though their relationship is strained. She left him to join the Grimm Troupe, seeking something beyond the fungal wastes. When you bring her the fragile charms, she's eating them not just to upgrade them, but to consume a part of her father's work, to literally incorporate his craft into herself. Your breathing is so slow now, so quiet, barely disturbing the air around you. The Moss Prophet preaches in the Queen's Station, proclaiming the coming of a new age. He worships the infection, seeing it not as a plague but as a blessing, a return to unity and purpose. His followers are infected bugs who gather around him, their minds consumed by the radiance. The prophet himself seems partially infected, his eyes glowing faintly, his words fervent and strange. He's not entirely wrong. The infection does create a kind of unity, connecting all infected bugs through the radiance's will. But it's a unity that destroys individuality, that consumes everything that makes a person who they are. The Moss Prophet's faith is genuine. He truly believes the infection is salvation, that the radiance offers something better than the loneliness and suffering of individual consciousness. In a way, he's advocating for a return to the way things were before the Pale King, before bugs had individual minds. He wants to go back to that instinctual connection, that sense of belonging to something greater. He just doesn't understand that the price is everything that makes him himself. Salubra runs a charm shop in the Forgotten Crossroads, selling various charms to help you on your journey. She's enthusiastic and friendly, expressing genuine excitement when you visit. She has particular fondness for grubs, decorating her shop with grub drawings and offering discounts if you've rescued enough of them. Her cheerfulness is refreshing in a kingdom full of tragedy and loss. Salubra's blessing is a small gift she gives you after you've purchased all her charms. It's not a powerful item, just a small token of appreciation, but the gesture matters. In a world where most interactions are transactional or hostile, Salubra's genuine kindness stands out. She's not trying to use you or manipulate you. She's just happy to help, happy to have a customer, happy to exist in her small shop, selling charms to travellers. The charm system is one of Hollow Knight's most elegant design features. Charms are equipable items that modify your abilities, and you can only equip a limited number based on your notch count. This creates meaningful choices. Do you focus on offense, defense, mobility, or utility? Different charm combinations enable different playstyles, allowing players to customize their experience based on their preferences and the challenges they're facing. Let your thoughts dissolve like sugar in water, sweetness without form, present but intangible. Some charms synergize with each other, creating combinations that are more powerful than the sum of their parts. Discovering these synergies is part of the joy of experimentation. The game never tells you which charms work well together. You have to figure it out through trial and error, through testing different combinations against different challenges. The Wayward Compass is often dismissed as a beginner's charm, useful only until you've memorized the map. But there's something comforting about always knowing where you are, about having that small white arrow showing your position. Some players never take it off, not because they need it for navigation, but because it provides a sense of security, a reminder that even in the darkest depths of Hallownest, you're not truly lost. Gathering Swarm automatically collects geo for you, pulling dropped currency toward you without requiring you to walk over it. It's a quality of life charm that seems minor until you try playing without it. Then you realise how much time you spent backtracking to collect geo from awkward positions, how many small frustrations it eliminated. It's not flashy or powerful, but it makes the experience smoother, more pleasant. The Dashmaster charm reduces the cooldown on your dash, allowing you to move through areas more quickly. It doesn't make you stronger in combat, and doesn't help you defeat bosses, but it makes traversal more fluid, more satisfying. Hollow Knight is a game about exploration as much as combat, and charms like Dashmaster enhance that exploration, making the simple act of moving through the world more enjoyable. Sprintmaster increases your movement speed, another charm focused on traversal rather than combat. Combined with Dashmaster, it transforms how you move through Hallownest, turning navigation into something graceful and swift. These charms don't help you fight, but they make the journey between fights more pleasant, reducing the tedium of backtracking and making exploration feel more dynamic. Your heartbeat is slow and steady, a distant drum, barely noticed, barely there. Quick focus makes healing faster, reducing the time you're vulnerable while focusing soul. It's essential for certain playstyles, particularly for players who prefer to heal during combat rather than between fights. The faster healing can mean the difference between recovering health and taking damage while trying to heal, between survival and death. Deep focus makes each heal restore 2 masks instead of 1, but takes longer to cast. It's the opposite philosophy from quick focus. Fewer, more powerful heals rather than quick, efficient ones. Combined with certain other charms, deep focus can create a tank build that's nearly unkillable, able to recover massive amounts of health between enemy attacks. Grubsong generates soul when you take damage, turning pain into power. It's a charm that rewards aggressive play, that turns mistakes into opportunities. Every hit you take gives you soul, which you can use to heal or cast spells. It creates a feedback loop where taking damage makes you stronger, where survival becomes easier the more you're hurt. The Grimm Child is a unique charm obtained through the Grimm Troupe questline. It summons a small creature that follows you and attacks enemies independently. The Grimm Child grows stronger as you feed it flames, evolving through multiple stages. It's not the most powerful offensive charm, but there's something comforting about having a companion, about not being entirely alone in the darkness. Weaver Song summons 3 weaverlings that attack enemies independently. Combined with Grub Song, it creates a build where your companions generate soul for you by taking damage, allowing you to heal or cast spells without hitting enemies yourself. It's a passive playstyle, letting your summons do the work while you focus on survival and positioning. Let your awareness fade like the last light of sunset, gentle and gradual, barely noticed. The Spell Twister charm reduces the soul cost of spells, allowing you to cast more frequently. For spell-focused builds, it's essential, enabling a playstyle that relies on magic rather than nail combat. You become a mage rather than a warrior, keeping distance from enemies and destroying them with Vengeful Spirit, Shade Soul and Descending Dark. Shaman Stone increases spell damage significantly, making magic builds viable even against the toughest bosses. Combined with Spell Twister, it creates a powerful spellcaster build that can defeat most enemies before they get close. The trade-off is that you're more vulnerable in melee range, requiring careful positioning and awareness. Soul Catcher and Soul Eater increase the amount of soul you gain from hitting enemies. These charms enable more frequent healing and spellcasting, making them useful for almost any build. More soul means more options, more flexibility, more ability to respond to different situations. The Long Nail and Mark of Pride charms increase your attack range, making it easier to hit enemies while staying safe. The extra reach might seem minor, but it makes a significant difference in combat, allowing you to strike enemies before they can strike you, giving you more space to work with. Steady Body prevents knockback when you hit enemies, allowing you to attack continuously without being pushed away. It changes the rhythm of combat, making nail strikes feel more aggressive and relentless. You can press forward constantly, maintaining pressure rather than being pushed back with each hit. Heavy Blow increases knockback on enemies, giving you more control over positioning. It's the opposite of Steady Body. Instead of preventing your knockback, it increases theirs. Enemies are pushed further away with each hit, giving you more space, more time to react, more control over the flow of combat. Your body has forgotten itself, existing without awareness, present but not perceived. Thorns of Agony releases damaging thorns when you take damage, hurting nearby enemies. It's a defensive charm that punishes enemies for hitting you, turning their attacks into opportunities for counterattack. It won't save you from death, but it can help you survive by damaging enemies that get too close. Boulder Shell gives you temporary invincibility while focusing, protecting you while you heal. It's essential for certain boss fights, allowing you to heal safely even when enemies are nearby. The brief invincibility can mean the difference between a successful heal and taking damage while vulnerable. Stalwart Shell increases the invincibility time after taking damage, giving you more time to escape or reposition before you can be hit again. It's a subtle defensive charm that doesn't prevent damage but makes it easier to survive after being hit, reducing the chance of being hit multiple times in quick succession. Spore Shroom releases damaging spores while focusing, creating a cloud of poison around you. It's a niche charm, useful in specific situations where you need to damage enemies while healing. The spores don't do much damage, but they can finish off weak enemies or provide a small amount of pressure while you recover health. Sharp Shadow makes your dash deal damage, turning a defensive maneuver into an offensive tool. You can dash through enemies to hurt them, combining mobility with damage. It enables a hit-and-run playstyle, dashing through enemies, turning around and dashing through them again. Shape of Urn allows you to move while focusing, maintaining mobility while healing. It's one of the most powerful defensive charms in the game, allowing you to heal while dodging attacks, to recover health without becoming a stationary target. Combined with quick focus, it makes you incredibly difficult to kill. Let sleep approach like fog rolling in, gradual and inevitable, obscuring everything. Nailmaster's glory reduces the charge time for nail arts, thus making them more practical in combat. Nail arts are powerful but require charging, leaving you vulnerable. With Nailmaster's glory, they charge faster, becoming viable options in more situations, adding variety to your combat options. Dreamwielder makes the Dream Nail charge faster and gives you more soul when you hit enemies with it. It's essential for certain challenges and makes farming soul from enemies more efficient. The Dream Nail becomes a practical tool rather than just a key for accessing dream bosses. Dream Shield summons a rotating shield that blocks projectiles and damages enemies on contact. It's a defensive charm that provides passive protection, blocking attacks without requiring input. The shield rotates around you constantly, creating a barrier that enemies must get through to hit you. The glowing womb spawns hatchlings that attack enemies, consuming your soul over time. It's a passive damage charm that works best when you have excess soul, turning unused resources into offensive pressure. The hatchlings aren't powerful individually, but they add up, providing consistent damage without requiring active input. Joni's Blessing converts all your health into lifeblood, preventing healing but giving you more total health. It's a high-risk charm that fundamentally changes how you approach combat. You can't heal, so every hit matters more. But you have more health to work with, more room for error. It's a trade-off that suits certain playstyles and challenges. Lifeblood Heart and Lifeblood Core add extra Lifeblood Musks, giving you more health without requiring healing. They're simple, straightforward defensive charms that make you harder to kill. The extra health provides a buffer, more room for mistakes, more ability to survive difficult encounters. Your mind is drifting now, untethered, floating in vast, empty space. Hive blood slowly regenerates your health over time, one mask at a time. It's incredibly slow, but it means you can eventually recover all your health without using soul. For patient players, it enables a playstyle where you never need to worry about running out of health, where every mistake can be recovered from given enough time. Sprint Master and Dash Master together create a speed build that makes traversal incredibly fast and fluid. You move through Hallownest like water, flowing around obstacles, covering ground quickly. It's not a combat build, but it makes the game more enjoyable by reducing travel time and making exploration more dynamic. The King Soul charm slowly generates soul over time, providing a constant trickle of resources. Before you transform it into Void Heart, it's useful for patient players who want to ensure they always have soul available for healing or spells. It's slow, but it's reliable, a constant source of power that never runs out. Void Heart is the transformed version of King Soul, obtained by taking it to the abyss and confronting your past. It doesn't provide any mechanical benefits, but it's essential for accessing certain endings. It represents acceptance of what you are, acknowledgement of your nature as a vessel, as a being of void. With Void Heart equipped, the void recognizes you as one of its own. The Shade Cloak is an upgrade to your dash that allows you to pass through enemies and certain barriers. It's not a charm, but an ability, obtained in the abyss. This Shade Cloak transforms your dash from a simple movement tool into something more, allowing you to phase through attacks and enemies, to move through the world in ways that were previously impossible. Monarch wings give you a double jump, opening up new areas and making platforming significantly easier. Like the Shade Cloak, it's an ability rather than a charm, a permanent upgrade that expands your movement options. The double jump is essential for accessing many areas, making it one of the most important upgrades in the game. Let your consciousness fade like stars at dawn, still present but invisible, lost in growing light. The Crystal Heart allows you to dash horizontally through the air, maintaining momentum until you hit a wall or cancel the dash. It's essential for crossing large gaps and accessing certain areas. The Crystal Heart transforms traversal, allowing you to fly across vast distances to reach places that seemed impossible before. Isma's Tear protects you from acid, allowing you to swim through pools that would otherwise damage you. It opens up new areas, particularly in the royal waterways, and makes certain sections significantly easier. Like many abilities in Hollow Knight, Isma's Tear is both a key to new areas and a quality of life improvement that makes previously dangerous sections safe. The Mantis Claw allows you to cling to walls and wall jump, fundamentally changing how you navigate vertical spaces. It's one of the first major abilities you obtain, and it opens up huge portions of the map. Before the Mantis Claw, many areas are inaccessible. After, the world expands dramatically, revealing the true scope of Hallownest. The Mothwing Cloak is your first dash ability, allowing you to quickly move horizontally and dodge attacks. It's essential for both combat and exploration, making you more mobile and harder to hit. The dash becomes second nature quickly, an instinctive response to danger, a tool you use constantly without thinking about it. Vengeful Spirit is your first spell, a blast of soul energy that damages enemies at range. It gives you a ranged attack option, allowing you to damage enemies without getting close. As you progress, it upgrades to Shade Soul, becoming more powerful and able to pass through enemies, hitting multiple targets. Desolate Dive is a downward slam that damages enemies below you and provides brief invincibility. It's both an offensive tool and a defensive one, allowing you to dodge attacks while dealing damage. It upgrades to Descending Dark, which damages enemies around you when you land, making it even more powerful. Your thoughts are whispers now, barely audible, fading into silence. Howling Wraiths is a spell that releases screaming spirits upward, damaging enemies above you. It's powerful but situational, most useful against flying enemies or bosses that position themselves above you. It upgrades to Abyss Shriek, which deals massive damage and is one of the most powerful spells in the game. The Cyclone Slash is a nail art taught by Matto, a spinning attack that hits enemies around you. It's useful for dealing with groups of enemies, clearing space when you're surrounded. The spin has a satisfying weight to it, a sense of power and momentum that makes it feel impactful. The Dash Slash is taught by Shio, a quick forward strike that covers distance while attacking. It's useful for closing gaps, for hitting enemies that are just out of range. The Dash Slash combines mobility with offense, allowing you to reposition while dealing damage. The Great Slash is taught by Oro, a powerful charged attack that deals massive damage. It's slower than other nail arts but hits harder, making it ideal for punishing enemies during openings. The Great Slash requires patience and timing, rewarding players who can find the right moment to unleash it. The Pale King's saw blades in the White Palace are a manifestation of his paranoia and perfectionism. They're precisely placed, creating platforming challenges that require perfect execution. One mistake means death, forcing you to start over. The saw blades represent the Pale King's impossible standards, the perfection he demanded from himself and others, the standards that ultimately doomed his kingdom. The Path of Pain is a secret area within the White Palace, accessible only through a hidden breakable wall. It's the hardest platforming challenge in the game, a gauntlet of saw blades and spikes that requires perfect execution over an extended sequence. Completing it takes hours for most players, demanding absolute precision and patience. Let sleep take you now, gentle and complete. A darkness that asks nothing, offers everything. At the end of the Path of Pain, you find a memory. The Hollow Knight as a child looking up at the Pale King. The king looks back, and for a moment there's connection. That moment doomed everything. The Hollow Knight wasn't supposed to feel anything, wasn't supposed to form attachments. But it looked at its father with something like love, and the Pale King looked back. That crack in the void was enough to let the infection through. The ancient basin is the deepest accessible area in Hallownest, a place of darkness and silence. The architecture is different here, older, more primitive. This was the foundation of the kingdom, the place where everything began. The basin feels ancient in a way other areas don't, like you're walking through history, through layers of time compressed into stone. The broken vessel is one of your siblings. Another failed vessel that was discarded. It's been infected, its body taken over by the infection, used as a puppet. When you fight it, you're fighting your own sibling, a being that's like you but failed where you succeeded. The fight is tragic. This could have been you, discarded and infected, used as a weapon against other travellers. The Lost Kin is the dream version of the broken vessel, fought in the dream realm. It's faster and more aggressive, with new attacks and patterns. But it's also more aware, more present. Fighting the Lost Kin feels different from fighting the broken vessel. There's a sense that you're fighting the vessel itself rather than just the infection controlling it, that some part of your sibling is still present, still fighting. The lighthouse in the abyss is a small point of light in absolute darkness. Someone built it, maintained it, kept it burning even as the kingdom fell. The lighthouse serves no practical purpose. There's nothing to navigate to, no ships to guide. But it exists anyway, a defiant point of light in the deepest darkness, a reminder that even in the abyss, someone chose to create light. The shade is what remains when you die, a shadow version of yourself that holds all your geo and soul. You must defeat it to recover your resources. The shade represents your failures, your mistakes, everything you lost. But it's also a part of you, a shadow self that mirrors your movements, that knows your patterns because it is you. Your breathing is barely there now, a whisper of air, gentle and slow. If you die before recovering your shade, it's lost forever, along with all the geo it was holding. This creates tension, making death meaningful, making recovery important. You have to return to where you died, have to face the challenges that killed you, have to defeat your own shadow to reclaim what you lost. Gigi and Dirtmouth can summon your shade for a fee, allowing you to recover it without returning to where you died. It's a convenience for players who died in difficult areas, who don't want to fight through dangerous sections just to recover their shade. Gigi's service is expensive, but sometimes it's worth it to avoid the journey back. The confessor Gigi's dialogue suggests she has a deeper connection to the void and to shades than she reveals. She speaks of them with familiarity, with understanding, as if she knows what they are and where they come from. Her ability to summon shades isn't just a game mechanic, it's a power she possesses, a connection to the darkness that defines vessels. Rancid eggs are items that can be given to Confessor Gigi to summon your shade. They're found throughout Hallownest, hidden in obscure locations, sold by certain merchants. The eggs are described as smelling terrible, as being unpleasant to carry. But they're valuable, a currency that can save you from losing everything when you die in a dangerous place. Steel Soul mode is a permadeath mode where dying once ends your run permanently. It's for players who've mastered the game, who want the ultimate challenge. Every encounter becomes more tense, every decision more important. You can't afford to be reckless, can't afford to take unnecessary risks. Steel Soul mode transforms Hollow Knight from a game about exploration and discovery into a game about survival and caution. The Steel Soul achievement is one of the rarest in the game, earned by completing Steel Soul mode. It requires not just skill but consistency, the ability to avoid mistakes over an entire playthrough. Many skilled players have never earned it, having died to a moment of carelessness, a lapse in concentration, a mistake they couldn't recover from. Let your mind become empty, a vessel for sleep, hollow and peaceful. The Hunter is a mysterious figure who lives in Greenpath, documenting the creatures of Hallownest. He gives you the Hunter's Journal, a book that records information about every enemy you encounter. Filling the journal requires defeating each enemy multiple times, learning their patterns, understanding their behaviour. It's a completionist challenge that encourages you to engage with every aspect of the game's bestiary. The Hunter's journal entries are written from the Hunter's perspective, offering his thoughts on each creature. Some entries are analytical, describing behaviour and weaknesses. Others are philosophical, reflecting on the nature of predation, survival, and death. The Hunter sees Hallownest as an ecosystem, a place where creatures hunt and are hunted, where death is natural and necessary. Completing the Hunter's Journal requires defeating 164 different enemies, including many that are easy to miss. Some enemies only appear in specific locations, some only during certain events. Finding and defeating them all is a challenge that takes most players dozens of hours, requiring thorough exploration and careful attention to detail. The Hunter's Mark is awarded for completing the journal, a symbol of mastery over Hallownest's creatures. It doesn't provide any mechanical benefit, but it represents achievement, dedication, the willingness to engage with every aspect of the game. The Hunter's Mark is a badge of honour, proof that you've seen everything Hallownest has to offer. Menderbug is one of the rarest enemies in the game, appearing randomly in the Forgotten Crossroads to repair signs you've broken. He's harmless, just trying to fix the damage you've caused. Many players never encounter him naturally, going entire playthroughs without seeing him once. Defeating him feels wrong. He's not an enemy, just a maintenance worker doing his job. The Menderbug achievement is earned by defeating him, making it one of the rarest achievements in the game. It requires both luck to encounter him and the willingness to kill a harmless creature who's just trying to maintain the kingdom. Some players refuse to earn this achievement, letting Menderbug live, respecting his dedication to his thankless task. Your body is still now, completely relaxed, at peace. The Weathered Mask is a hidden item in Deepnest. found in a secret area that requires careful exploration to discover. It's one of the mask shards that increase your maximum health. Finding all the mask shards requires thorough exploration, attention to detail, and willingness to venture into dangerous areas. Each one makes you slightly more durable, slightly more able to survive the challenges ahead. Vessel fragments increase your soul capacity, allowing you to store more soul for healing and spells. Like mask shards, they're scattered throughout Hallownest, hidden in obscure locations, rewarding exploration and curiosity. Collecting them all requires visiting almost every area, finding secrets, completing challenges. The Pale Lurker is a hidden boss in the Colosseum of Fools, accessible only through a secret passage. It's a challenging fight, testing your combat skills against a unique enemy. The Pale Lurker drops a significant amount of geo when defeated, making it worth seeking out for players who need currency. Geo is the currency of Hallownest, used to purchase items, upgrades and services. You collect it from defeated enemies, from deposits in the environment, from selling items. Geo is lost when you die, held by your shade until you recover it. This creates tension around death. You're not just losing progress, you're losing resources, losing the currency you've accumulated. Millabelle is a banker in Fog Canyon who offers to hold your geo for safekeeping. She seems trustworthy, friendly, offering a service that seems useful, but if you deposit enough geo with her, she steals it and flees to the pleasure house in the City of Tears. You can track her down and recover your geo, but the betrayal stings. She seemed kind, seemed helpful, and she robbed you. The pleasure house is a mysterious location in the City of Tears, a place of luxury and indulgence that's now empty and abandoned. Millabelle hides here after stealing your geo, surrounded by the trappings of wealth. When you find her, she's defensive, making excuses, trying to justify her theft. You can attack her to recover your geo, hitting her repeatedly until she gives back everything she stole. Let sleep embrace you fully now, warm and complete, asking nothing, offering rest. The Godseeker is a mysterious bug found in the junk pit, encased in a cocoon. Using Desolate Dive on the cocoon breaks it open, revealing the Godseeker and granting access to Godhome. The Godseeker worships powerful beings, seeking gods to test herself against. She sees you as a potential god, a being worthy of worship and challenge. Godhome exists in the Dream Realm, a place created by the Godseeker's faith and will. It's a realm dedicated to combat, to testing strength against the mightiest beings in Hallownest. The architecture is grand and imposing, filled with statues of the bosses you'll fight, monuments to power and skill. The Hall of Gods in Godhome allows you to fight any boss you've encountered on different difficulty levels. Attuned is the normal difficulty, matching the boss as you fought it in the main game. Ascended is harder, with increased health and damage. Radiant is the ultimate challenge. The boss has increased health and damage, and you die in one hit. Radiant difficulty is brutally unforgiving, requiring perfect execution. Defeating all bosses on Radiant difficulty is considered one of the hardest challenges in gaming. It requires mastery of every boss pattern, perfect execution, the ability to fight for minutes without making a single mistake. Players who achieve this have spent hundreds of hours practicing, learning, perfecting their skills. The Eternal Ordeal is an endless survival mode in Godhome where you fight infinite waves of Zotelings, dream versions of Zote. It's absurd and challenging, a test of endurance and consistency. The waves never stop, The enemies never end. You fight until you die or give up, seeing how long you can survive against endless absurdity. The Zotelings are dream creatures born from Bretta's imagination, manifestations of her idealized vision of Zote. They're stronger than the real Zote, more competent, more dangerous. It's fitting that even in an endless survival challenge, Zote appears not as himself, but as someone's dream of what he could be. Your consciousness is fading now, dissolving into darkness, peaceful and complete. Bretta eventually leaves Dirtmouth if you defeat Grey Prince Zote enough times. She realizes that even her idealized dream version of Zote isn't what she wants. She leaves a note saying she's going to find her own path, to seek adventure and meaning beyond her fantasies. It's a moment of growth, of self-realization, of choosing reality over comfortable delusion. Tiso is a warrior who arrives in Dirtmouth seeking glory in the Colosseum of Fools. He's confident and boastful, certain of his skills. But when you find him in the Colosseum, he's dead, killed by one of the arena's challenges. His shield lies broken beside his corpse, a reminder that confidence isn't enough, that hollowness kills the unprepared regardless of their bravado. Tiso's death is preventable in one sense. If you never talk to him in Dirtmouth, he never goes to the Colosseum, never dies. But that's not really saving him. It's just preventing him from pursuing his goal, from seeking the glory he wanted. His death is tragic, but it's also the result of his choice, his decision to test himself against the Colosseum's challenges. Yeah, the gorgeous husk is an enemy in the City of Tears, a bug who's been infected but maintains some semblance of their former elegance. They wear fine clothes, move with grace, attack with refined movements. Even infected, even consumed by the Radiance, they retain some echo of who they were, some fragment of the culture and sophistication that defined the City of Tears. The Pale Court is a mod created by fans, adding new content to Hollow Knight. While not official, it's been embraced by the community, praised for its quality and faithfulness to the game's aesthetic. The mod adds new areas, new bosses, new lore, expanding Hallownest in ways that feel natural and consistent with Team Cherry's vision. The modding community around Hollow Knight is active and creative, producing custom content that ranges from quality of life improvements to entirely new campaigns. Mods like Randomizer change how items are distributed, creating new challenges for experienced players. Others add new bosses, new areas, new stories, keeping the game fresh years after release. Let your last thoughts fade like echoes in a vast empty hall, present then gone, leaving only silence. Speedrunning. Hollow Knight has become a popular challenge, with players competing to complete the game as quickly as possible. Different categories exist. Any percent allows any route to reach an ending, while 112% requires completing almost everything the game offers. World records are measured in minutes, the result of countless hours of practice, route optimization, and perfect execution. The speedrunning community has discovered numerous skips and sequence breaks, ways to access areas earlier than intended or bypass challenges entirely. These discoveries require deep knowledge of the game's mechanics, creative problem solving, and willingness to experiment. Some skips are simple, others require frame-perfect inputs and precise positioning. Shade skips use your shade's position to access areas early, exploiting how the game handles death and respawning. Dying in specific locations can place your shade in positions that allow you to reach areas you shouldn't be able to access yet. It's a creative use of a mechanic that was never intended for sequence breaking. The Howling Cliffs is an area on the surface, above Hallownest proper, where wind constantly howls across barren stone. It's a desolate place, empty and windswept, and home to few creatures. The Howling Cliffs feel separate from the rest of Hallownest, a place apart where the kingdom's influence never fully reached. Grub is a dream boss in the Howling Cliffs, the spirit of a bug who believed himself to be ascending to a higher plane. His dialogue is grandiose and absurd, proclaiming his greatness, his transcendence. But he's just a ghost, trapped in the Howling Cliffs, unable to move on. His delusions of grandeur are sad more than funny, a reminder that belief doesn't make something true. Aladar is another dream warrior found in Greenpath. He was a knight who fought to protect the weak, who dedicated his life to service and honour. His spirit remains, still fighting, still protecting, unable to rest even in death. When you defeat him, you're not destroying him but releasing him, allowing him to finally stop fighting, to finally rest. Your mind is empty now, a vessel filled with nothing but peace, hollow and complete. Marmu is a dream warrior in the Queen's Gardens, the spirit of a caterpillar who died young. The fight is energetic and bouncy, Marmu hopping around with childlike enthusiasm. There's something innocent about the encounter, a sense that Marmu is playing rather than fighting. Defeating Marmu feels less like combat and more like helping a child move on, releasing them from a game that's lasted too long. No Eyes is a dream boss in the Stone Sanctuary, the spirit of a bug who witnessed terrible things. Her dialogue is fragmented and disturbing, speaking of eyes and seeing and things that shouldn't be seen. The fight takes place in darkness, with No Eyes appearing and disappearing, we attacking from shadows. It's one of the most unsettling encounters in the game, a fight against trauma and madness given form. Galian is a dream warrior in the Resting Grounds, a powerful mage who fought with magic rather than a nail. His spirit attacks with spells, floating above you, maintaining distance. The fight requires different strategies than most encounters, forcing you to deal with a mobile ranged enemy rather than a melee combatant. Markoth is a dream warrior in Kingdom's Edge, and he's one of the most frustrating bosses in the game. He floats above you, attacks with spinning shields, and the fight takes place on a small platform with no floor beneath it. Falling means death, and Markoth's attacks are designed to knock you off the platform. The fight requires patience, precision, and the ability to maintain composure while constantly at risk of falling. Zero is a dream warrior in the Resting Grounds, a bug who was betrayed and executed unjustly. His spirit is angry, bitter, attacking with nail strikes and teleportation. His dialogue speaks of betrayal, of injustice, of rage that hasn't faded even in death. Defeating Zero doesn't resolve his anger, doesn't give him justice. It just ends his existence, silencing his rage without addressing its cause. Elder Hu is a dream warrior in the Fungal Wastes, a peaceful monk who attacks reluctantly. His dialogue suggests he doesn't want to fight, that he's compelled by something beyond his control. The fight is gentle compared to other dream warriors, Elder Hu's attacks measured and predictable. Defeating him feels like releasing him from an obligation he never wanted. Let sleep take you completely now, a darkness without dreams, peaceful and absolute. The Dream Warriors collectively represent different aspects of Hallownest's past: warriors, mages, protectors, the betrayed, the deluded, the innocent. Each one tells a small story through their dialogue and behaviour, adding depth to the kingdom's history. They're not just boss fights, but glimpses into who these bugs were, what they believed, why they can't rest. The essence you collect from dream warriors and other dream sources is used to upgrade the dream nail. Collecting enough essence unlocks new abilities, allowing you to access more dream content, to delve deeper into the memories and dreams that permeate Hallownest. Essence is literally the stuff of dreams, crystallized memory and consciousness. The seer is a moth who lives in the resting grounds, the keeper of the dream nail. She's ancient, one of the last of her kind, remembering the time before the Pale King, when the moths worshipped the Radiance openly. She gives you the dream nail and guides you in collecting essence, helping you access the dream realm and the memories hidden there. The seer's dialogue reveals the moth's history, their worship of the Radiance, their abandonment of her when the Pale King arrived. She speaks with regret and nostalgia, remembering a time when her tribe was whole, when they basked in the Radiance's light without fear or doubt. She understands what was lost when the moths turned away from their goddess, even if she also understands why they did it. When you collect enough essence, the seer gives you the awoken dream nail, a more powerful version that can access deeper dreams and memories. With enough essence, she finally departs, her purpose complete, ascending to join her tribe in whatever realm awaits them. She thanks you for helping her fulfill her duty, for allowing her to finally rest after centuries of waiting. The White Defender is a dream boss in the Royal Waterways, the spirit of a dung beetle who served the kingdom as a knight. He's enthusiastic and honourable, treating your fights as friendly sparring matches. Each time you defeat him, he congratulates you, expresses admiration for your skill, and invites you to fight again. He's one of the few bosses who seems to enjoy the combat, who treats it as a game rather than a life or death struggle. Your breathing is so slow now, so quiet, barely there at all. The White Defender is actually Dung Defender's dream form, representing him in his prime, before age and loss diminished him. Fighting the White Defender is fighting the knight he once was, experiencing his skill and enthusiasm at their peak. It's a glimpse into the past, into who he was before the kingdom fell. Dung Defender himself is one of the most beloved characters in the game. He's cheerful and boisterous, proud of his role protecting the royal waterways. He treats combat as a joyful challenge, laughing and shouting throughout the fight. His enthusiasm is infectious, making the encounter feel less like a boss fight and more like a friendly competition. After you defeat Dung Defender, he becomes sad, realizing that the kingdom he protected is truly gone, that his duty is meaningless. He sits in his chamber, surrounded by statues of the other knights who served with him, all dead now. He's the last one left, the only survivor of a group of friends who fought together, who protected Hallownest together. His loneliness is profound, the weight of being the sole survivor crushing his earlier enthusiasm. The 5 great knights were the Pale King's elite warriors, the strongest fighters in Hallownest. Dung Defender was one of them. The others were Hegemol, Isma, Zima and the Pale Lurker. Each one was legendary, capable of incredible feats. But they're all gone now, dead or disappeared, leaving only memories and the statues Dung Defender built to honour them. Isma was one of the 5 great knights, and Isma's tear is named after her. She had the power to resist acid, to move through toxic environments without harm. The tear you obtain grants you that same protection, a fragment of her power that persists even after her death. Isma's grove in the royal waterways is a memorial to her, a place of beauty in the midst of filth, Hegemol was another of the 5 great knights, known for his massive armour. His armour was stolen, taken by someone who used it to disguise themselves. The False Knight, one of the early bosses, wears Hegemol's armour, a small bug piloting armour far too large for them, pretending to be something they're not. Let your last awareness fade, dissolving into nothing, peaceful and complete. The False Knight is a maggot, one of the lowest creatures in Hallownest's hierarchy. He found Hegemol's armour and put it on, gaining power and respect he never had before. When you fight him, you're not fighting a knight, but a desperate creature trying to protect his siblings, trying to be strong enough to keep them safe. When you break the armour, you see how small he is, how pathetic, how desperate. The failed champion is the dream version of the False Knight, representing his idealised self, the knight he wishes he could be. The failed champion is larger, stronger, more aggressive, but still ultimately a fraud, still just a small bug in stolen armour. The name is perfect. He's a champion who failed, or perhaps a failed attempt at being a champion, forever falling short of what he wanted to be. Zima was one of the 5 great knights, a warrior from a distant land who came to Hallownest and fell in love. Her lover was the traitor lord's daughter, the same bug the Grey Mourner grieves for. Zima's grave is in the Queen's Gardens, marked by the delicate flower you deliver. She was an outsider who found love in Hallownest, who fought for a kingdom that wasn't hers because of that love. The Pale Lurker might be the 5th great knight, though this is never confirmed. The Pale Lurker is found in the Colosseum, a mysterious figure who doesn't speak, who fights with skill and precision. Whether they're one of the 5 or just a powerful warrior, they represent the kind of strength that once protected Hallownest, the skill that's now rare in the Fallen Kingdom. The Abyss Shriek's name is perfect. It's a shriek from the abyss, a scream of void given form. When you cast it, you're releasing the accumulated rage and pain of all the vessels who died in the abyss, all your siblings who fell during the climb, who were discarded and forgotten. It's the most powerful spell in the game, and it's powered by grief and loss. The Shade Soul is your vengeful spirit transformed by void, made darker and more powerful. It passes through enemies, hitting multiple targets, representing how void consumes everything it touches. The spell is more efficient than Vengeful Spirit, more deadly, more aligned with your true nature as a vessel. Your mind is empty now, hollow, at peace, finally at rest. Descending Dark provides invincibility frames when cast, making it both an offensive and defensive tool. You can use it to dodge attacks while dealing damage, to survive situations that would otherwise kill you. The invincibility represents the void's nature. It can't be harmed because it's already nothing, already empty. The Flukeness charm transforms your vengeful spirit into a swarm of flukes that spread out and attack independently. It's a completely different playstyle, trading the precision of the normal spell for area coverage and sustained damage. The flukes are creatures from the royal waterways, parasites that infest other bugs. Using them as weapons feels appropriate for a place as filthy as the waterways. The Defender's crest makes you smell terrible, causing certain enemies to react differently. It's mostly a joke charm, but it has niche uses. It damages certain enemies passively, and it changes Leg-Eater's dialogue. The crest belonged to Dung Defender, and wearing it means carrying his smell, the stench of his duty in the waterways. The Grubberfly's elegy is obtained by rescuing all the grubs. And it shoots projectiles when you're at full health, adding range damage to your nail strikes. The charm represents the grub's gratitude, their desire to help you after you freed them. It's one of the few charms that's purely a reward, that can't be obtained through purchase or finding, only through completing a specific quest. The King Soul generates souls slowly over time, providing a constant trickle of resources. It's useful but not powerful, a charm that represents the union of the Pale King and White Lady, their combined power to create and sustain life. When you transform it into Void Heart, you're rejecting that life-giving power, accepting instead the void's emptiness. Void Heart doesn't provide any mechanical benefits, but it changes how the void reacts to you. With Void Heart equipped, the Shade siblings in the Abyss don't attack you. They recognize you as one of them, as a vessel that's accepted its nature. The void acknowledges you, and in that acknowledgement you find a kind of belonging. Let sleep claim you fully, completely, a darkness without end, peaceful and eternal. The siblings in the Abyss are the shades of all the vessels who died during the climb, all your brothers and sisters who failed where you succeeded. They attack you initially, seeing you as an intruder. But with Void Heart they recognize you, and they stop attacking. They gather around you, acknowledging you as one of them, as their sibling who survived. In the Embrace the Void ending, the siblings help you defeat the Radiance. They surge up from the Abyss, combining with you, transforming you into something massive and powerful. You become not just a single vessel, but the collective will of all the vessels, all the discarded children rising up together to destroy the god who threatened their father's kingdom. The Radiance shatters in that ending, consumed by void, her light extinguished. But you're gone too, dissolved into the collective, no longer an individual. The night ceases to exist as a separate being, becoming part of the void, part of the darkness. It's a victory, but it's also a kind of death, a loss of self in service of a greater purpose. The dream, no more ending, is different. You defeat the Radiance alone, without the siblings' help, without transforming into something greater. You destroy her through your own strength, your own determination, and when she's gone, you remain yourself, still individual, still separate. Hornet finds you in the Abyss afterward, confirming that you survived, that you're still you. The Sealed Siblings ending has Hornet seal you inside the Black Egg, taking the Hollow Knight's place as the new prison for the Radiance. You become what your sibling was, a living seal, a vessel containing a god. Hornet stands outside the sealed door alone again, having condemned you to the same fate as the Hollow Knight. The cycle continues, the solution unchanged, just a different vessel bearing the burden. The basic ending has you defeat the Hollow Knight and take its place without the Void Heart. You become the new seal, containing the Radiance, buying hollowness more time. But like the Hollow Knight, you're not truly hollow. The seal will fail eventually and the infection will return. You've delayed the inevitable, nothing more. Your consciousness is gone now, dissolved into sleep, peaceful and complete, finally at rest. Each ending represents a different philosophy, a different answer to hollowness' problem. The basic ending is repetition, continuing the cycle. Sealed Siblings is sacrifice, one person bearing the burden for everyone else. Dream. No more is destruction, ending the threat permanently through individual strength. Embrace the Void is transcendence, becoming something greater than yourself to achieve victory. None of the endings are entirely happy. Even Dream No More, the most positive ending, leaves Hallownest in ruins, the kingdom still fallen, most of its inhabitants still dead or infected. You've solved the Radiance problem, but you can't undo the damage you caused. The kingdom is saved from further infection, but it's not restored. Not healed. It's just over. The ambiguity of the endings is intentional. Team Cherry doesn't tell you which ending is correct or best. Each one has merit. Each one represents a valid choice. The game trusts you to decide what the night story means. What kind of ending feels right for your journey through Hallownest? Silksong is the sequel to Hollow Knight, featuring Hornet as the protagonist. It was announced in February 2019, originally planned as DLC, but expanded into a full game. The game takes place in Farloom, a kingdom above Hallownest, with new areas, new enemies, new mechanics. Hornet plays differently from the Knight, faster and more aggressive, with different abilities and movement options. The wait for Silksong has become legendary in the gaming community. Years have passed since the announcement. With minimal updates from Team Cherry, fans joke about the wait, create memes, speculate endlessly about release dates. The anticipation has built to almost unbearable levels, with every gaming event bringing hope that this will be the one where Silksong finally gets a release date. Team Cherry's silence during development is both frustrating and admirable. They're not rushing, not releasing the game before it's ready, not compromising their vision to meet arbitrary deadlines. They're taking the time to make Silksong as good as Hollow Knight, to ensure it lives up to the expectations created by their first game. But the wait is hard, and the lack of communication makes it harder. Let these final facts drift away, leaving only darkness, only peace, only sleep. The Hollow Knight community remains active years after the game's release. Creating art, writing stories, analysing lore, discussing theories. The game has inspired countless fan works, from detailed paintings to animated shorts to musical covers. The community's creativity and passion keep the game alive, keep people engaged even during the long wait for Silksong. Mossbag is a YouTuber who creates detailed lore videos about Hollow Knight, explaining the story, analysing the symbolism, connecting the pieces of Hallownest's history. His videos are comprehensive and entertaining, helping players understand the game's complex narrative. He's become a central figure in the community, his interpretations widely accepted and discussed. The lore of Hollow Knight is deliberately obscure, told through environmental details, item descriptions, NPC dialogue, and subtle visual cues. The game never explains its story directly, never gives you a clear narrative. You have to piece it together yourself, interpreting fragments, making connections, filling in gaps with speculation. This approach respects player intelligence, trusting you to engage with the story actively rather than passively receiving it. The symbolism in Hollow Knight is rich and layered. The Pale King represents order and consciousness, but also control and sacrifice. The Radiance represents connection and unity, but also loss of self and forced conformity. The Void represents emptiness and death, but also potential and freedom from suffering. Nothing is purely good or evil, purely right or wrong. Everything exists in shades of grey, in complex moral territory. The game's themes of sacrifice, duty, and the cost of consciousness resonate deeply with players. The Pale King's choice to create and discard thousands of vessels raises questions about the ethics of sacrifice, about whether any goal justifies such methods. The Radiance's desperation raises questions about the nature of gods, about what happens when beings of immense power are forgotten and abandoned. The relationship between the Pale King and the Hollow Knight is central to the game's emotional core. The King created the Hollow Knight to be empty, to be a tool, to be nothing more than a prison. But despite everything, Despite being created from void and raised in isolation, the Hollow Knight loved him. That love doomed the seal, but it also makes the Hollow Knight more than what it was created to be. It proves that even beings designed to be empty can feel, can care, ye can love. Your breathing is barely perceptible, a whisper, almost nothing, fading into silence. The White Lady's guilt over creating the vessels is profound. She participated in the creation of thousands of lives that were designed to fail, designed to be discarded. She watched them fall into the abyss, watched the Pale King's obsession consume him, watched the kingdom fall despite everything they sacrificed. Her choice to bind herself, to refuse to create more life, is an act of penance, a refusal to participate in any more creation that might lead to suffering. The Pale King's death is mysterious, never explained. He sits on his throne in the White Palace, crown still on his head, dead for reasons unknown. Maybe the infection reached him. Maybe the weight of his failures crushed him. Maybe he simply gave up, unable to bear the knowledge that his perfect solution had failed, that his kingdom was doomed despite everything he sacrificed. His death is as enigmatic as his life, leaving questions that will never be answered. The birthplace cutscene, accessed by taking the king's soul to the abyss, shows the creation of the vessels. You see the abyss filled with shells, thousands of failed attempts. You see the Hollow Knight chosen, taken away, while you and countless others are left behind. The cutscene is silent, wordless, but it communicates everything. The scale of the Pale King's experiment, the cost of his solution, the tragedy of the vessel's existence. The moment when the King Soul transforms into Void Heart is significant. You're rejecting the Pale King's legacy, rejecting the life-giving power he and the White Lady represented. You're accepting instead your nature as a being of void, as something that exists in opposition to their light and life. It's a moment of self-acceptance, of acknowledging what you are rather than what you were meant to be. The Shade Lord, the form you take in the Embrace the Void ending, is massive and terrifying. It dwarfs the Radiance, overwhelming her with sheer size and power. The Shade Lord represents the collective will of all the vessels, all the discarded children rising up together. It's a manifestation of accumulated grief and rage, of all the suffering the Pale King caused in pursuit of his solution. The final image of the Embrace the Void ending shows Hornet and the other bugs of Hallownest looking at the black egg. The door is open, the seal broken, but there's no sign of you. You're gone, dissolved into the void, no longer existing as an individual. The kingdom is saved, but you're not there to see it. Your victory is also your end. Let your mind become nothing, empty, hollow, at peace in the darkness. The dream. No more ending is more hopeful. You defeat the Radiance, and you survive. Hornet finds you in the abyss, confirming that you're still alive, still yourself. The kingdom is still in ruins, but the infection is ended, and you remain. There's a possibility of rebuilding, of recovery, of something new growing from the ruins of what was lost. The game's title, Hollow Knight, refers to multiple things. It's the Hollow Knight, your sibling who was chosen to seal the Radiance. It's you, another vessel, another Hollow Knight. It's the concept of hollowness itself, the emptiness that defines vessels, the void that opposes light. The title contains layers of meaning, reflecting the game's complex themes. The achievement for completing the game is called Hollow Knight, earned by defeating the Hollow Knight boss. It's the basic ending, the minimum required to complete the game. but it's not the true ending, not the full story. The game has more to offer, more secrets to discover, more challenges to overcome. The Hollow Knight achievement is just the beginning. The Sealed Siblings achievement is earned by completing that ending, where Hornet seals you inside the black egg. The name emphasizes the relationship between you and Hornet, the fact that despite your different origins, you're both children of the Pale King, both siblings in a strange, broken family. The Dream No More achievement is earned by defeating the Radiance in the Dream Realm, or ending the infection permanently. The name suggests finality, the end of dreams, the end of the Radiance's influence. No more dreams means no more infection, no more suffering caused by a forgotten god's desperate rage. The game's difficulty is often cited as one of its defining features. Hollow Knight is hard, demanding precision, pattern recognition, and patience. But the difficulty is fair, never cheap or arbitrary. Every death is a learning opportunity, every failure a chance to improve. The game respects your time and intelligence, trusting you to overcome its challenges through skill and determination. Your heartbeat is distant now, a faint rhythm, barely noticed, fading away. The bench system serves as both save points and checkpoints. Sitting on a bench saves your progress and restores your health, but it also respawns all enemies. This creates interesting decisions. Do you rest and restore your health, knowing you'll have to fight through enemies again? Or do you push forward, risking death but maintaining your progress through cleared areas? The map system requires you to find Cornifer in each area and purchase the map from him. Then you have to fill in details by exploring, with your position only showing up if you have the Wayward Compass equipped or if you've placed a map pin. This system encourages exploration and rewards attention to detail, making navigation part of the challenge rather than a convenience. The game's length is substantial, with a first playthrough typically taking 30 to 50 hours to complete. But there's significantly more content for those who want it. Completing everything the game offers can take 80 to 100 hours or more. The game respects both players who want to experience the story and move on, and players who want to master every challenge and discover every secret. The price point of Hollow Knight was remarkably low at launch, $15 for a game that offered more content than many $60 titles. Team Cherry could have charged more, and players would have paid it. But they kept the price accessible, wanting as many people as possible to experience Hallownest. The value proposition is extraordinary, one of the best in gaming. The game's influence on the indie scene has been significant. Hollow Knight proved that small teams could create experiences that rival or exceed AAA productions. That hand-drawn art could be as impressive as high-end 3D graphics, that challenging gameplay could find a massive audience. Many indie developers cite Hollow Knight as an inspiration, as proof that their ambitions are achievable. The Metroidvania genre was revitalized by games like Hollow Knight. The genre had been dormant for years with few notable releases, but Hollow Knight's success, along with games like Ori and the Blind Forest and Dead Cells, proved there was still a massive audience for exploration-focused action games with interconnected worlds. Let your last thoughts dissolve, becoming nothing, leaving only emptiness, only peace. The game's atmosphere is one of its greatest achievements. Hallownest feels real, feels lived in, feels like a place with history and culture and tragedy. The environmental storytelling is masterful, with every area telling stories through architecture, enemy placement, and visual details. You can understand what happened in Hallownest without reading a single line of dialogue, just by observing the world around you. This sound design complements the visuals perfectly. Every enemy has distinctive sounds. Every area has its own audio identity. The silence in certain areas is as important as the music in others. The game knows when to be quiet, when to let ambient sounds create atmosphere, when to let music take centre stage. Christopher Larkin's soundtrack is available on streaming platforms, and many players listen to it outside the game. The music stands on its own, evoking the emotions and atmosphere of Hallownest even without the visual context. And tracks like City of Tears, Sealed Vessel and Radiance have become iconic, recognised and beloved by players worldwide. The Sealed Vessel track plays during the Hollow Knight boss fight, and it's heartbreaking. The music is mournful and tragic, reflecting the Hollow Knight's suffering, the weight of its duty, the loneliness of its existence. Fighting the Hollow Knight while that music plays transforms the encounter from a boss fight into something more emotional, more personal. The Radiance track is intense and overwhelming, matching the final boss's aggressive attacks and the high stakes of the encounter. The music builds and swells, creating a sense of epic confrontation, of facing a god in her own realm. It's one of the most memorable boss themes in gaming, perfectly capturing the desperation and power of the fight. The Mantis Lord's track is rhythmic and precise, matching the synchronized attacks of the three warriors. The music has a sense of honor and respect, reflecting the nature of the fight as a test rather than a battle to the death. It's one of the most popular tracks in the soundtrack, beloved for its energy and its perfect match to the encounter it accompanies. Let sleep take everything now, all thought, all awareness, leaving only darkness, only rest. The Dung Defender track is upbeat and energetic, matching his enthusiastic personality. It's one of the few boss themes that feels joyful rather than threatening, reflecting how Dung Defender treats combat as a game rather than a life or death struggle. The music makes you smile even as you're fighting, capturing his infectious enthusiasm. The Grimm Troupe track is theatrical and dramatic, with accordion and strings creating a circus-like atmosphere. It perfectly captures the troupe's aesthetic, their performance-focused approach to everything. The music makes the Grimm Troupe feel like a travelling show, a spectacle that's arrived in Hallownest to put on a performance. The Nightmare King track is faster and more intense than the regular Grimm theme, matching the increased difficulty of the fight. The music drives you forward, matching the rhythm of the battle, creating a sense of dance and performance even in the midst of one of the game's hardest challenges. The White Palace track is unsettling and mechanical, with ticking sounds and discordant notes creating a sense of wrongness. The music reflects the palace's transformation from a seat of power to a paranoid death trap, the corruption of something that was once beautiful into something twisted and dangerous. The Green Path track is gentle and melancholic, with soft strings and piano creating a sense of faded beauty. Greenpath is one of the most visually beautiful areas in the game, overgrown with plants, still alive despite the kingdom's fall. The music captures that bittersweet beauty, the sense of life persisting in the ruins. The Fungal Wastes track is strange and alien, reflecting the area's unique ecosystem. The music doesn't sound like it belongs in Hallownest, which is appropriate for an area that operates according to its own logic, that exists somewhat apart from the rest of the kingdom. Your body's forgotten now, your mind is gone, only sleep remains, deep and complete. The Deepnest track is minimal and terrifying, with sparse notes and long silences creating maximum tension. The music makes you feel unsafe, vulnerable, constantly on edge. It's perfect for an area designed to make you uncomfortable, to trigger primal fears of darkness and crawling things. The Crystal Peak track is bright and crystalline, with chiming sounds that match the area's visual aesthetic. The music is beautiful but also slightly unsettling, reflecting how the crystals are both gorgeous and deadly, how beauty and hollowness often comes with danger. The Resting Grounds track is peaceful and melancholic, appropriate for a place of burial and memory. The music encourages contemplation, reflection on the dead and what they meant. It's one of the quietest tracks in the game, creating space for thought and emotion. The Queen's Gardens track is elegant and sad, reflecting the area's faded beauty. The gardens were once maintained and beautiful, a place of cultivation and care. Now they are overgrown, wild, beautiful in a different way but also abandoned. The music captures that transition, that sense of beauty persisting without the hands that created it. The Kingdom's Edge track is harsh and windswept, matching the area's barren landscape. Kingdom's Edge is the boundary of Hallownest, where the kingdom gives way to ash and emptiness. The music reflects that liminal quality, that sense of being at the edge of something, looking out at what lies beyond. The Ancient Basin track is deep and resonant, with low notes that feel ancient and heavy. The basin is the foundation of Hallownest, the deepest accessible area, and the music reflects that depth, that sense of being at the bottom of everything in the oldest part of the kingdom. Let these final words fade away, leaving only silence, only darkness, only sleep, peaceful and eternal and complete. The game's replay value is exceptional. Even after completing everything, many players return to Hallownest, starting new save files, trying different charm builds, challenging themselves with self-imposed restrictions. The world is so well crafted, the gameplay so satisfying, that returning feels like coming home rather than retreading old ground. Randomizer mods add infinite replay value by shuffling item locations, making each playthrough unique. You might find the Mantis Claw in the Crystal Peak, the Shade Cloak in Green Path, the Dream Nail in Deepnest. The randomization forces you to explore differently, to adapt to whatever items you find, to solve the puzzle of how to progress with a different set of tools. The community has created challenge runs with specific restrictions: no charms, no nail upgrades, no healing, no abilities. These challenges push players to master the game's mechanics, to find new strategies, to overcome obstacles in creative ways. The game's design is robust enough to support these challenges, to remain fair and beatable even with severe restrictions. The Any Radiant challenge requires defeating every boss on Radiant difficulty in the Hall of Gods. It's one of the ultimate tests of skill, requiring mastery of every boss pattern, perfect execution in dozens of different fights. Players who complete this challenge have spent hundreds of hours practicing, relearning, perfecting their skills. The speedrunning community continues to find new optimizations, new skips, new ways to complete the game faster. World records are constantly being broken, sometimes by seconds, sometimes by minutes. The dedication and skill of speedrunners is remarkable, representing thousands of hours of practice and route optimization. The game has been ported to multiple platforms: PC, Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, with each version maintaining the quality and performance of the original. The Switch version in particular has been praised for how well it runs on the portable hardware, making Hollow Knight accessible to players who prefer handheld gaming. Sleep now, completely, deeply, peacefully, letting go of everything, resting in darkness. The physical editions of Hollow Knight include art books and other bonuses, allowing fans to own a tangible piece of the game. The art book showcases concept art, character designs and environmental sketches, revealing the creative process behind Hallownest's creation. Seeing the early designs and how they evolved into the final game provides insight into Team Cherry's vision and dedication. The Hollow Knight vinyl soundtrack was released, allowing fans to own the music in physical form. The vinyl includes artwork and liner notes, making it a collector's item as well as a way to experience Christopher Larkin's compositions. The physicality of vinyl adds another dimension to the music, making the listening experience more intentional and immersive. Fangamer produces official Hollow Knight merchandise, including plushies, pins, as clothing and art prints. The quality of the merchandise reflects the care Team Cherry puts into everything related to the game. Fans can own physical representations of their favourite characters, wearing or displaying their love for Hallownest. The Hollow Knight community on Reddit is active and welcoming, with players sharing art, discussing lore, helping newcomers, and celebrating achievements. The community's positivity and enthusiasm make it a pleasant place to engage with other fans, to share your experiences, to learn from others. The game has inspired countless pieces of fan art, from simple sketches to elaborate paintings. Artists are drawn to Hollow Knight's distinctive visual style, its memorable characters, its emotional depth. The fan art keeps the game alive in the community, yet providing new interpretations and perspectives on familiar characters and scenes. Fan fiction explores aspects of the story that the game leaves ambiguous, imagining conversations between characters, filling in gaps in the timeline, exploring relationships and emotions. The writing community around Hollow Knight is creative and thoughtful, producing stories that honour the game's themes while adding new dimensions to its world. Rest now, let go completely, surrendering to sleep, to darkness, to peace, to nothing. Cosplayers have created elaborate costumes based on Hollow Knight characters, bringing them to life at conventions and events. The dedication required to create these costumes, crafting masks, sewing cloaks, building props, demonstrates the deep connection fans feel to the game. Seeing Hornet or the Knight or Grimm in physical form is surreal and wonderful. The game's accessibility options are limited compared to modern standards, but the community has created mods to address this. Mods exist to slow down the game, to provide invincibility, to adjust difficulty in various ways. These mods make Hollow Knight accessible to players who might otherwise struggle with its challenges, allowing more people to experience Hallownest. The game's legacy is secure. Hollow Knight will be remembered as one of the defining indie games of its generation, a masterpiece of design, art, music, and storytelling. It proved what small teams could achieve, inspired countless developers, and brought joy to millions of players. Whatever happens with Silksong, whatever Team Cherry creates next, Hollow Knight's place in gaming history is assured. The emotional impact of Hollow Knight stays with players long after they've finished the game. The melancholy atmosphere, the tragic stories, the beautiful music, they linger in memory, creating a lasting impression. Many players cite Hollow Knight as one of the most emotionally affecting games they've played, a work of art that moved them in ways they didn't expect. The game's themes of sacrifice, duty, love and loss resonate on a deep level. The Pale King's impossible choices, the Hollow Knight's doomed love, Quirrel's peaceful end, Hornet's lonely vigil. These stories touch something fundamental about the human experience, about the costs of our choices, about the weight of responsibility, about the inevitability of loss. The silence of the night makes them a perfect vessel for player emotion, because the night never speaks, never expresses feeling. Players project their own emotions onto them. The night becomes whatever you need them to be. Determined, compassionate, ruthless, gentle. The emptiness that defines vessels becomes a space for players to fill with their own interpretations and feelings. Sleep deeply now, completely, peacefully, in darkness without end, in rest without dreams. The relationship between player and character in Hollow Knight is unique. You're not just controlling the night, you're inhabiting them, making choices for them, deciding what kind of being they are. Do you spare the Nailsmith or kill him? Do you save Zote or leave him to die? Do you complete the Grimm Troupe ritual or banish them? These choices define who the knight is, what they value, what kind of hero they become. The game never judges your choices. There's no morality system, no good or evil endings based on your decisions. The game presents options and lets you choose, trusting you to make the decisions that feel right for your knight, for your story. This respect for player agency is rare and valuable, allowing for personal, meaningful playthroughs. The interconnected world design is masterful. Areas loop back on themselves, shortcuts connect distant locations, the map gradually reveals itself as a coherent whole. Learning the geography of Hallownest, understanding how areas connect, finding efficient routes between locations. This knowledge feels earned, feels valuable. The world becomes familiar, becomes home. Yet the sense of exploration in Hollow Knight is unmatched. Every area holds secrets, every wall might be breakable, every ceiling might hide a passage. The game rewards curiosity, rewards attention to detail, rewards players who take the time to thoroughly explore rather than rushing through. The joy of discovery, of finding a hidden room or a secret boss, never fades. The game's pacing is excellent. The early game teaches you mechanics gradually, introducing new abilities and challenges at a measured pace. The mid-game opens up, giving you freedom to explore in any direction, to tackle challenges in any order. The late game focuses and intensifies, driving toward the climax, toward the final confrontation with the Hollow Knight and the Radiance. The difficulty curve is well balanced. Early areas are manageable for new players, and teaching basic skills without overwhelming. Later areas demand mastery of those skills, requiring precision and pattern recognition. The optional content, the pantheons, the radiant bosses, the path of pain, provides extreme challenges for players who want them, without forcing everyone to engage with that level of difficulty. Let your final awareness dissolve, becoming nothing, leaving only emptiness, only peace, only sleep. The game respects your time while also demanding your attention. Deaths are quick to recover from, with benches and checkpoints placed thoughtfully throughout the world. But the game also requires focus, requires you to be present and engaged. You can't autopilot through Hollow Knight. It demands your full attention, and in return it provides a deeply satisfying experience. The controls are tight and responsive, with the knight doing exactly what you tell them to do. When you die, it's because you made a mistake, not because the controls failed you. This precision makes the game feel fair, makes deaths feel like learning opportunities rather than frustrations. You know you can do better, and the controls give you the tools to improve. The game's visual clarity is excellent despite the detailed art style. Enemies are distinct from backgrounds, attacks are telegraphed clearly, hazards are visible. You always know what killed you, always understand what you need to avoid. This clarity is essential for a challenging game. Difficulty should come from execution, not from confusion about what's happening. The game's length feels perfect. It's long enough to feel substantial, to allow for deep exploration and mastery, but not so long that it overstays its welcome. The pacing keeps you engaged throughout, with new areas and challenges appearing regularly, preventing the experience from becoming stale or repetitive. The optional content extends the game significantly for those who want more. The Pantheons alone can add dozens of hours of gameplay, and completing everything the game offers, all charms, all upgrades, all bosses, all achievements, can take well over 100 hours, but none of this is required. You can experience the story and move on, or you can dive deep into every challenge the game offers. The game's design philosophy is evident in every aspect. Respect for the player, trust in their intelligence and skill, willingness to let them struggle and overcome challenges. Team Cherry never holds your hand, never makes things easy just to ensure everyone can finish. They created a challenging game and trusted that players would rise to meet that challenge. Sleep now, finally, completely, in darkness absolute, in peace eternal, in rest without end. The game's influence extends beyond gaming. Hollow Knight has been analysed in academic papers, discussed in art classes, used as an example of effective storytelling and world building. It's recognised not just as a good game, but as a work of art, as something that transcends its medium to become culturally significant. The game's success has allowed Team Cherry to work on Silksong without financial pressure, to take the time they need to make it perfect. They're not rushing to capitalise on Hollow Knight's success, yet not compromising their vision to meet deadlines. They're making the game they want to make, and the wait, however long, will be worth it. The anticipation for Silksong is a testament to Hollow Knight's quality. Players trust Team Cherry because of what they created with Hollow Knight, because of the care and craftsmanship evident in every aspect of the game. That trust means players are willing to wait, willing to be patient, confident that Silksong will be worth the wait. The community's patience during the Silksong wait is remarkable. Yes, there are jokes and memes about the wait, but there's also genuine understanding that good games take time, that rushing would compromise quality. The community wants Silksong to be as good as Hollow Knight, and they're willing to wait for Team Cherry to achieve that. The legacy of Hollow Knight will endure regardless of what comes next. It's already a classic, already a game that will be played and loved for decades. New players discover it constantly, experiencing Hallowness for the first time, falling in love with its world and characters and challenges. The game continues to find new audiences, continues to move and inspire people. And now, as these facts come to an end, as the story of Hallowness fades into memory, let yourself fade too. Let sleep take you completely. Let the darkness embrace you. Let your mind become hollow, empty, at peace. Rest now, deeply and completely, in a quiet darkness, where nothing can harm you, where nothing is required of you, where you can simply be, simply rest, simply sleep. Good night.